Welcome everybody to Limited Level Ups. I'm Alex and we are in day 2 here of our Phyrexia All Will Be One set review. Today we're doing the rares and the mythics. I'm joined once again by former pro Marc Anderson. We had a great time yesterday. If you've not caught the commons and uncommons, you can check that out on the Limited Level Ups podcast feed or on the Limited Level Ups YouTube channel. If you're watching live, there's also the Twitch VOD, a bunch of different places. But yeah, we're gonna jump into the rares today, and the rares are always kind of funny because for every set there's way more A's and way more F's than you would see in the commons and uncommons. There, in the commons and uncommons, it's a lot of stuff in the middle. So there, ideally probably won't be as much, in the weed stuff. We've kind of covered the mechanics yesterday, so we're gonna jump into the cards, kind of assuming that you know what Proliferate does, what Toxic does. Obviously, we'll touch on some of the implications, but we're not gonna read out the mechanics once again. So if you do want to check that all out, as I said, look at the past video. Marc, anything else before we jump into our first card here?
I'll just take this opportunity to, again, thank you, Alex. I don't think I can do this enough. It's been real fun to do this, and hopefully this isn't the last time you have me. But I will say I'm certainly less prepared for the rares and mythics. I haven't looked at them as much. I haven't spent as much time thinking about them. So prepared to be a lot more wrong about these.
Yeah, well, I always think of the rares as kind of like the laid back day. Like we've made it kind of over the finish line, and it's like, all right, we're gonna do our best to evaluate these cards, but it is just kind of more fun to talk about the rares. So let's just jump right in. So our first rare here, we're going multicolor just like we did yesterday. Multicolor, then colorless, then into the colors. And we're starting here with Azuri, Stalker of the Spheres. This is our blue-green rare. This is 2 blue-green for a 3/3 legendary creature at rare. It says, when Azuri, Stalker of the Spheres, enters the battlefield, you may pay 3. If you do, proliferate twice. And then it also has a line of text, whenever you proliferate, draw a card.
Yeah, so this one, like right off the bat, they don't give us an easy one. It seems understated no matter which cost you pay for it. And like for 7, getting a 3/3 that draws 2 and proliferate twice seems okay.
Yeah.
And then for 4, getting a 3/3 that maybe draws you cards later also seems like okay. So I want to say, like, I'm gonna go C plus.
Yeah,
but maybe that might be too low.
Kind of a split card here, and neither ends of the split card is all that good. Like, we've kind of seen a lot of cards actually before that have been like 4 mana, reasonable, okay-ish body that then draws cards if you start untap with it. I know you didn't play original Dominaria, but this reminds me of the Giora, red-blue Giora that was like kind of this. You drew a card off of each historic permanent you cast. So it's a little bit similar there. And like, yeah, I think like you said, both the 7 mana mode, whatever, a little bit clunky. 3 mana mode's a little bit understated. I'm gonna join you at C plus. I think, like we mentioned yesterday, proliferate isn't like, oh man, you proliferate twice. It's kind of just like, okay, it's like a nice thing. But yeah, I don't think this card is an awesome first pick. I would imagine that sometimes you'll first pick it, but there's gonna be a lot of commons and uncommons I would take over it. So C plus seems about right.
Next, we have Glissa Sunslayer, which is 1 black-green for a 3/3 first strike death touch. And it has, whenever Glissa Sunslayer deals combat damage to a player, you can either draw a card and lose a life, or destroy target enchantment, or remove up to 3 counters from target permanent. So it won't remove your poison counters.
Yeah, so for those who maybe have not played with Death Touch plus First Strike before, it does work the way you want it to. This does not... Glissa is very, very good in combat. You have to line up like 4 creatures on Glissa, and then 3 of them will die to get any...
And the 4 creatures all need to be at least like 3 power, right?
Yeah. So this thing is winning combat, and it's good. It comes down, it bricks everything. Obviously, against another first striker, it'll just go toe to toe with. But this thing is going to be very difficult to block. So you're going to be able to get one of these hit abilities fairly often, or they're going to need an interaction spell to kill this thing. If you don't, you're going to be able to, choose one of these. I imagine that the most common mode is just going to be draw a card, you lose a life. Sometimes you'll destroy an enchantment. Rarely you'll remove 3 counters. It's kind of going in order of what I think you're most often going to pick. But this is just a really solid card. I would probably give this a B plus, maybe B. Like, it dies to, a lot of the removal spells, and that's not the, end all be all or anything, but it's not like a no enter the battlefield effect. I would still say that if you untap with this card, it's very likely that you're going to start running away with the game. That's about a B plus for me.
I actually put it at an A minus.
Okay, yeah.
Just like this thing is just, if you want it to defend, it defends. If you want it to attack, it attacks. Like there's just no stopping this thing. The only way you're like reasonably happy is if you have that like white trick, the military discipline that gives your thing first strike, and then you can like 2-for-1 yourself.
Yeah.
This thing is just, yeah. I think it makes it up to the A grade.
All right, yeah, no, I respect that. I actually, you know what? I'll join you here because you're right. It's just like so good and it's so cheap. And you know, one of the things we've seen definitely over the past year or two is these like super cheap value generating bombs are like often better than like the 6 mana, 7 mana ones that look more impactful. But these ones that come down are really hard to deal with, get value right away. Do tend to like run away with the game and, you know, win a lot of games. So yeah, I'll join you there at A plus or A minus. Sorry.
All right.
All right. Next up, we've got Jor Kadeen, our first gold wash. So it says red white for a 2/2. So 2 mana for a 2/2. Legendary creature at rare. It's got trample. And it says whenever Jor Kadeen first gold warden attacks, it gets +X until end of turn, where X is the number of equipped creatures you control. Then if Jor Kadeen's power is 4 or greater, draw a card.
Yeah, I really like, so we started off with some really strong commons, and then we moved into some really strong uncommons, and now they seem to be like making sure we also have some really strong rares, which isn't always the case with these sets. And I really like having cards like this, even though I'm typically more on the Pauper formats compared to Prince formats. But just if we think that red-white is not like the best deck in the format, at least there's cards that are like, no, you have a good reason to draft these decks.
Yep. Yeah, I think
so this thing,
oh, no, so great, good.
Yeah, I'll just give it a grading before I pass back to you. I almost think it's in, I will say, like, so 0 equipment is just a bear, which is fine. 1 equipment, you're attacking as a 3/3, and then 2 equipment, it's a 4/4 draw card. I'm gonna say like B plus.
Yeah, I think so. The 2/2 trample, that just plays well with tricks. Like it's gonna be a card that your opponent is, you know, just like in your red-white aggro deck, your opponent's gonna want to block your 2-drop, and trample on a 2-drop is plays better than you might expect if you've got tricks in your deck. And yeah, like the thing is, you're probably going to get this to 4 power with 1 equipment, right? Most of the time, because it's gonna get the bonus for. Oh, sorry, you need to, it's X is the number of, oh no, so it counts itself. Yeah, so you can equip it, let's say you have a +1 equipment, you equip Jor Kadeen, that gets it there on its own. So it's not really that difficult, yeah. So yeah, I agree. I think B+, and I definitely agree with what you said too, where even if yesterday we were talking about how, yeah, the red-white theme's not that supported, well, when you get past Jor Kadeen early in pack 1, you're like, well, this is like kind of an incentive, and maybe I do want to play a crappy artifact. Like this is the level of card that, you know, if you didn't have other ways to pump your creatures, I might play one of the Dork Hero artifacts or one of the Dork Hero equipments to turn this on.
Yeah, and curving this into the red common, that the equipment that gives +1/-1, like that, if you just play this on turn 2 and turn 3 you play the equipment and move it over to Jor Kadeen, it's only got 2 toughness. It'll be a 4/2 attacking, but it will draw a card right away. So if your opponent doesn't have a good block for that, like you're just steamrolling that game.
Yeah, and you know, nothing to be, you know, like that's not even saying anything about other ways to pump this creature. Like they're just going to be static ways that, you know, grow your creatures that we've seen already. So yeah, I like B+ for Jor Kadeen.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, what's up next?
We have Kaito Dancing Shadow, the first of a chunk of Planeswalkers, which is 2 blue-black for a 3 loyalty Planeswalker. Whenever one or more creatures, this is a static ability. Whenever one or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, you may return one of them to its owner's hand. If you do, you may activate loyalty abilities of Kaito twice this turn rather than only once. And that doesn't have to be the same ability. You can do 2 different ones or the same one twice. The 3 abilities it has are +1, up to 1 target creature can't attack or block until your next turn. 0 to draw a card, or -2 to create a 2/2 colorless drone artifact creature token with Death Touch. And when this creature leaves the battlefield, each opponent loses 2 and you gain 2 life.
Wow, this card's great. This is
a lot of words.
Yeah, a lot of words, and they're all good words too. So I think we mentioned this before, but just for the, you know, setting the stage a little bit, there are 10 Planeswalkers in this set, 5 at Rare, 5 at Mythic, and there's this is one of the ones at Rare here. Okay, so let's just break this down. Forget about that static for now. We'll come back to that. But the +1 starts at 3 loyalty, 4 mana Planeswalker, +1. Up to one target creature can't attack or block until your next turn. So you're removing that from from the blocking combat equation. That's a pretty good ability. Protects the Kaido, gets your creatures in. It's kind of nice. 0, draw a card. All right, yeah, it's good. And then the -2 is they've really pushed this token. 2/2 Death Touch with the when it leaves Vampire Spawn, drain you for 2 ability. That is pretty nice too. Death Touch is huge on this, just being able to protect Kaido really well. And of course, with the going back to the static ability, just being to go, if you want to, if you want the creature that you're picking up is this drone, you'll drain them for 2, and you can maybe draw 2 cards, cash your drone in for a card. It's just super, super flexible and all good things. I think this is like in A. I'd probably put this in A.
I wrote down an A for this.
Great,
as well.
yeah. It just does so much stuff and at a pretty good rate. Next up, we've got Kaya Intangible Slayer. And one of the themes is kind of funny. I think a lot of the rare Planeswalkers are better than the Mythic ones. So Kaya is a 7-mana Planeswalker, 3 white, white, black, black. So not splashable, 6 loyalty. She's got hexproof. Okay, so one of the things that I've noted yesterday is, Marc is shaking his head. One of the things I noted yesterday is all the removal, or most of the removal, hits Planeswalkers in this set, so that you're not just like, well, Planeswalker, I lose. Kaya's got hexproof, though, so that's a big deal. Her +2 is each opponent loses 3 life, you gain 3 life. Her 0 is you draw 2 cards, and each opponent may scry 1. -3, exile target creature or enchantment. If it wasn't an aura, create a token copy of it, except it's a 1/1 white spirit creature with flying in addition to its other types. Okay. That's a lot. What do you think of that?
I mean, that -3 could be like a -5, and this would still be incredible.
Yeah. Very, very good.
So good. I'm annoyed at how good the rares are. Like, it's going to feel really bad when you open a pack and you don't see like a really strong rare because it seems just so many in the set. But this thing, it's at least an A, maybe even A+.
Yeah, one of the daggers here is just the fact that not only does it have hexproof, but also has extremely high loyalty, like 6 going up to 8. Like, like the way you beat this card is you simply have 5 more creatures than your opponent on the battlefield when this gets cast. Like that's kind of the only way around this. It's very close to 7 mana win the game in so many game states. So I'm gonna give this 7 mana. That's a lot, and we've definitely seen some 7 mana cards like Coma that are, even though they're expensive, they are just like win the game on the spot. I think Kaya is like ever so slight a notch below Coma level, so I'm gonna give it an A. But I agree, I could see it just being A+ when things shake out.
I wrote down an A as well. Like, yeah, it doesn't quite automatically win the game, but like if you're ahead, it just the game's just over, and if you're behind, this is exactly what you want. So
yep, agree.
Right.
What do we have next here?
Next we have Cathek, who knows? Cathek we'll go with. Cathek Crucible Goliath, 2 black-red for a 4/4. And at the beginning of your end step, you may sacrifice another creature. If you do, reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a non-legendary creature card with lesser mana value. Put it onto the battlefield, then put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order.
Yeah, so this kind of seems like a more constructed leaning card where you can really build your deck to kind of quote-unquote birthing pod into the right thing. You can still get some value. Like, you can have, like, I'm thinking of, there's that 4 mana common in black. It's a 4/1 that when it dies, you look at the top 3 cards of your library, you draw a card. I think there's not quite enough dies triggers in the set to make me comfortable saying this is just a good build around. But the baseline of this is 4/4 for 4, which, is fine. And your opponent will, you get to punish your opponent's, like, pacifism / claustrophobia. Numbing Dose is what it's called in the set. Planter, whatever it is, the 2 mana white removal spell. You'll incidentally get to punish that kind of stuff. There'll be some cards that maybe have a good enter the battlefield effect, but then their body isn't that good. You can sack it to get something else. So it has its uses. I just don't think it's like a fantastic build around. I think this is probably like a C.
I had already written down C for this.
Awesome.
It is weird, though, that like black-red doesn't look like one of the better color pairs, and then they give it a rare that's also not that exciting. And I also think a lot of people are going to activate this when they shouldn't.
Yes, just because they can.
Yeah, and then they'll sack like their 4-drop, and then they're going to hit a 1-drop, and they're going to be like, wait a second.
Yeah, because, I said birthing pod, but it's not like it goes down 1 level, right? It can just, like you said, you could sack a 4, get a 1, and that's just not good. So, yeah, just a C. Just a plain old C. It's a very vanilla rare. Next up, we've got our first Mythic Planeswalker. So the whole shtick with the Mythic Planeswalkers is they are all completed. So they've all got Phyrexian mana. And for those who haven't played with completed Planeswalkers, they've got that Phyrexian hybrid mana in the cost. So, for example, I'll read out Luca here. Luca Bound to Ruin is 2 red, Phyrexian hybrid, red or green, and then green. So the way this works is you can either pay it for 2 red, red, green, or 2 red, green, green. That's 5 mana. Or you can pay 2 life instead of that hybrid mana. So it's 4 mana plus 2 life. If you do, the completed Planeswalker enters with 2 fewer loyalty counters than it would. So Luca's got 5. If you complete it, pay 4 mana and 2 life, it's going to have 3 loyalty counters. Okay, so that's the baseline here for our completed Planeswalkers. The +1 on Luca is add red-green. Spend this mana only to cast creature spells or activate abilities of creatures. -1, create a 3/3 green Phyrexian beast creature token with toxic 1. -4, Luca deals X damage divided as you choose among any number of target creatures and or planeswalkers, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control when you activate this ability.
Yeah, so this at 4 mana, this is kind of similar to Garruk Wildspeaker.
Yeah.
With 3 loyalty, you get 2 mana, but it's worse than untapping 2 lands. You get a -4 that you can go into but it's also worse than the overrun. But then the -1 does give you a toxic creature. And then you also have the option to play this for 5 mana and start with 5 loyalty. And then potentially down-ticking this, 4 times and making beasts and still having a planeswalker in play. It's still just going to be great. I probably have this at an A-.
Yeah, I think so too. And it's, there's kind of often with these kind of cards, any modal cost, people kind of often ask like, oh, like which one do you think you're going to be doing more often, like 4 mana or 5 mana? And it's one of those cards, and like all these planeswalkers, I think it's not going to be you're going to do this 4 way more often than the 5. It's going to depend on the game state. But 5 mana Luca is quite a bit better. Like just if you're at all have the ground locked down and can make 5 beasts, just go down tick, down tick, down tick, down tick without having to take a turn off to uptick. That's pretty nice. I think that -4 is going to end some games, but not really the important part of the card. It's really just like how many times can you make a bunch of beasts, and that's just good. So yeah, I would also join you at A- there.
Okay. Next, we have Malcator Purity Overseer. 1 blue-white for a 1/1 for a legendary creature. A Phyrexian Elephant Wizard. I don't know if we've seen any of those before.
That's great.
And then when it enters the battlefield, create a 3/3 colorless Phyrexian Golem artifact creature token. And at the beginning of your end step, if 3 or more artifacts enter the battlefield under your control this turn, you get to create another one.
Yeah, so it's 3 mana for a 1/1 and a 3/3. That's just good. You're getting 4/4 worth of stats for that. That's I guess I was gonna say you can blink it, but like there's only one blink thing. I guess you can rebuy this from the graveyard if you're like crossing over some color somehow. But that second line of text there, that's not gonna trigger very often. That is 3 artifacts is a lot. Like you can imagine having something that makes your might tokens and then another thing, but otherwise you have to go like 2-drop artifact creature, 2-drop artifact creature, 1-drop spell bomb or something. Like it's a lot. It's basically if you do that, you're gonna feel very good about yourself, but it's not part of the card's valuation mostly. So you're just looking at a 3 mana 1/1 plus 3/3. That's good. That's like a B- right there.
Yeah, I had it as a B. Like,
yeah.
I just think it's a lot of stats. It's basically a Clarion Cathar for 3 mana.
For 1 less mana, that's true. Yeah, exactly. And it's just like a very efficient card. So nothing special. It speaks to the artifact theme, but very lightly. So yeah, I like B-. You're going to go B still?
Yeah, I think I'll stick with
right.
4/4 stats, 3 mana is a pretty high pick, I think.
That's good. Next up, we've got Melira, the Living Cure. So this is a green-white legendary creature at rare. If you would get 1 or more poison counters, instead you get 1 poison counter, and then you can't get additional poison counters this turn. She's also got the ability Exile Melira, the Living Cure, choose another target creature or artifact. When that thing's put into the graveyard this turn, return that card to the battlefield under its owner's control, and she's a 3/3. So 2 mana 3/3, got this poison, insulation, protection ability, and you can save. She can protect one of your bigger things.
Yeah, one of the only non-Phyrexian creatures in the set.
Yeah.
There's only a few of them. Is like I think it's less than 10% of the creatures are not Phyrexians. But still, like great on stats. A nice bonus on the static ability, and a callback to initial Melira with the Melira pod trigger. And that you're not always going to want to do that, but when you do, it's going to be better than having a 3/3 in play.
Yeah, certainly, and just 2-mana 3/3 is solid, and that like that poison rider there that she kind of stops you from getting multiple poison counters. It's not going to come up in every matchup, but in the ones that it does, like it's going to be pretty annoying if your opponent is relying on poison to kill. We talked yesterday about how a lot of the decks are going to kill on damage and poison kind of at the same time, but if your opponent somehow is more all in on poison, that's like a real big issue. So yeah, I like Melira. What would you give her?
I have Melira as a B-, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. Just good stats and two pretty relevant abilities, if not a little bit subtle in their application.
Yeah, it's kind of funny that like the 2-mana 3/3 and the 3-mana 4/4, I like the 3-mana 4/4 better.
Yeah.
But between like bouncing it with skull bombs and
yep.
And just being like a bit easier to cast on curve than needing exactly 2 colors on turn 2, I think I can back it up.
Yeah, and like spread over 2 bodies is nice too.
Yeah.
All right.
Next we have Miglo's Maze Crusher for 1 red-green, and it is a 4/4 legendary creature. It enters the battlefield with 5 oil counters on it, and you can either pay 1 and remove an oil counter to give it vigilance and menace, or you can pay 2 and remove 2 oil counters to give it +2/+2, or you can pay 3 and remove 3 oil counters to destroy target artifact or enchantment.
Jeez, that's just so much. So 5 oil counters, that's a lot of oil, and 3-mana 4/4, that's good stats. And all of these abilities are good. Like, I think most often you're going to just go, if this 4/4 doesn't have a clean attack, which often it just will, it'll just have a good attack early in the game.
Whoa. Did you say if this 4/4 doesn't have a clean attack?
Yeah, I'm saying it's going to, though, most of the time.
It attacks as an 8/8.
Yes, that's true. Yeah. Forget about, I was kind of getting there, but I probably started in the wrong place. Even if your opponent has a 4/4, they're not going to block with their 4/4 because you can just pump it for 2 mana. So this is very difficult to block on multiple fronts and has that destroy an artifact or enchantment. Like sometimes this thing's just going to kill your opponent's creature when they play that, you play this, and they're like, well, crap. So this card's really, really pushed.
Yeah, like not even if there was no proliferate in this set, this thing would be busted.
Mm-hmm.
So what are you giving it then?
Man, I think just on efficiency, I'm just gonna give this an A. Maybe an A-, but I think it's got enough stuff going that it's such a beater, comes down, is huge, and can kill stuff. So yeah, I'm just gonna give this an A.
I wrote A-. I'll just leave it there.
Cool, yeah. All right, next up we've got another completed Planeswalker. This is Nahiri the Unforgiving. So this is 1 red, hybrid Boros, and white. So either 3 mana or 4 mana with the completed ability. 5 loyalty or 3 loyalty for the 3 mana mode. +1. Until your next turn, up to 1 target creature attacks a player, each combat if able. Another +1, discard a card, then draw a card. 0, exile target creature or equipment card from with mana value less than Nahiri's loyalty from your graveyard. Create a token copy of that. That token gains haste and exile it at the beginning of the next end step.
Yeah, this one's weird.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's great. It is still playable. Like it's still going to be pretty good. It's, I guess 3 mana 3 loyalty or 4 mana 5 loyalty. Pluses to make things awkward, pluses to filter, and that 0 you're only getting value from it if you're returning your 4 Mirrodin cards. Mm-hmm. In which case it's just giving you a 2/2. I want to say like I'm somewhere between C+ and B-. I think I'll just stick with a B-.
Yeah, I was gonna give it a C+. I think it's kind of funny. I think from talking, I think this is, I'm maybe slightly higher on the card than you are. I think we're actually probably in about the same place. But I think reading this card, like you said, it's weird. But I think it does enough small things like that plus ability. Let's just talk about that quickly. That I remember realizing this, that forcing your opponent to attack is an upside. Like, it almost feels like a downside sometimes, but, like, it's a strict upside, right? To, like, they're not given the choice, basically. And you can eat a small creature with that, or you get a blocker out of the way. That's kind of the idea. And then that +1 to rummage isn't bad, too. I think that 0 is kind of whatever. But, yeah, it does enough small things. I don't think it's amazing. I agree. Like I said, I think I'm going to give it a C+, but I don't think you should just look at this and be like, oh, it's like a weird commander or constructor card. I think it does enough stuff unlimited too.
I'll join you. I think you're right. I think it's closer to a C+.
Cool. Yeah. All right. Next up.
Next we have Ovika, Enigma Goliath, 5 blue-red for a 6/6 flying legendary creature. It has Ward for 3 mana and 3 life. And whenever you cast a non-creature spell, create X 1/1 red Phyrexia and Goblin creature tokens, where X is the mana value of that spell. They gain haste until end of turn. And you keep expecting to read the line "sacrifice them" at end of turn on there, but
right?
No, you don't. You just get to keep them.
Yeah, that's so 7 mana is a lot, but you're getting a lot for what you're paying. Like 6 mana, 7 mana, 6/6 flyer, Ward 3, pay 3 life. That's very difficult to deal with. And if you ever untap with this, not only is your opponent getting hit by a 6/6, but potentially a lot of goblins, or the goblins hold the ground while you're getting it with your 6/6. So it's expensive, but it's like I said, you are getting a lot for your mana. So I don't know. I think I'd probably give this like a B plus, because I can definitely see situations where you cast this on 7, and it's just not enough for your 7-drop. It doesn't stabilize you immediately. You do still have to untap. Your opponent might be able just to attack around you. It is good though, so I don't want to like talk it down too much. Is that around how you feel about the card too?
It's close. I have it as a B, just for being 7 mana and not like immediately doing anything else. But yeah, it's very good if you get to, like, this is the type of card you build your deck around.
Yes, certainly. Yeah, definitely. And you can, with blue, you can probably find it pretty easily. One thing, just to quickly go back to Nahiri, actually, that chat's mentioned, I wanted to call out too, is that Nahiri, her plus protects her, because the creature has to attack you, not Nahiri. And so it's kind of her +1 of making something attack a player is sort of a protection ability on Nahiri. Didn't want to get that out of the way. But quickly, back to Ovika here. Yeah, I think we're on the same page, basically. So B plus area.
Yep.
Cool. All right. Next up, we've got Rhea Ivor, Bane of Bladehold. This is a Hero of Bladehold callback. This is 2 white black for a 3/4 with Battle Cry. So it's the only card in the set with Battle Cry. So if you haven't played with Battle Cry before, it says whenever this creature attacks, each other attacking creature gets +1/+0 until end of turn. It also says at the beginning of combat on your turn, the next time target creature would deal combat damage to 1 or more players this combat, prevent that damage. If damage is prevented this way, create that many 1/1 colorless Phyrexian Might artifact tokens with Toxic 1, and this creature can't block.
So, I don't. This might be a hot take, but I don't think this card is that good.
Okay, so yeah, talk us through it.
It's, like, the fact that you have to prevent the damage, I think, is a big deal. Like, on stats, you're just getting a 4 mana 3/4, right? Which is not, like, if you're behind, it's not very good. It doesn't have any built-in protection or anything like that. And then you have to pick the creature you're going to target at the beginning of combat, so your opponent knows exactly what it is. And then once you've chosen it, at that point, you have to go through with it, right?
Like, you can choose not to attack if... Oh, I see what you're saying. You can't just be like, oh, after something happened in combat, you can't deal the damage. You have to say this is the one I've chosen. The damage is going to get prevented from it. Yes. Yeah,
so like if you're attacking with like 10 power spread across creatures and your opponent's at 10 life and you have chosen a creature of yours, because I guess you can target one of their creatures if you don't want to actually trigger it, or you can target itself. Your opponent has the option to just be like, I'll take it, right?
Yeah.
Because you're no longer dealing lethal damage. So like the real benefit, the good situation for this is you have something with evasion, you play it, you choose your evasion creature, you make a bunch of mites, and then next turn you battle cry all of them and like deal a ton of damage. But the setup for it, I just don't see it being great. Like, I don't see it. It just feels like a lot of words for a card that's like an uncommon power level card.
You're not actually getting that much advantage out of the ability. Like, I think the best case, like, you think about this, is like you have a 3/3, this comes down, that 3/3, the damage gets prevented, and either, your opponent has to, they're going to block it, or they're going to just take the damage, and you get a bunch of mites. I don't know, maybe talking through it doesn't sound too bad to me. Maybe I'm higher on this card than you are. So I guess the tension here is you're trading off immediate damage for future prospects, basically, of more damage, because Battle Cry pushes more damage. And I guess your approach is that's not a good trade-off. You just would prefer the damage now.
It can be, but it's not. It's not pure upside. And on a rare that's understated, I would expect to see more upside.
Yeah. So what do you want to give it then?
I have it as a C.
I am going to be a little bit higher on it than that. So is this? I'm just going to read this again. Again, a lot of words going through the intricacies. Do you have to pick? Like, is it? Can you just say no? I don't want to make any of my creatures do this thing. The beginning.
You have to pick. But you can pick one of their creatures.
True. You could. Yeah, and they can just choose not to block. Yeah, that's a good call. Yeah, I don't know. I think like I said, I think I'm a little bit higher on it. Like, I don't think 4 mana 3/4 Battlecry is that bad, and it has upside. Like, I don't think it's a crazy card, but I was gonna give it like a B minus.
Okay.
Yeah, like you said, you might be right on this. It might be a bit of a hot take, but I do think it's a little bit better than a C. So yeah, we'll have to see.
All right. Next we have Tiver, Jubilant something. It's covered. Jubilant Brawler, I assume, but we'll never know.
Yeah. Tyvar's hand is covering it.
1 black-green for a 3-mana legendary planeswalker. You may activate abilities of creatures you control as though those creatures had haste. +1 to untap up to 1 target creature, and -2 to mill 3 cards. Then you may return a creature card with mana value 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield.
This is a constructor card. This is not a card that is going to be good and limited. It's to go in your deck with a bunch of elves. If you're buying back best case scenario is like you play this, you trade off, or so you play a 2-drop, you trade that off on turn 3, you get it back, and then maybe this sticks around to maybe threaten to getting something back again. But that's just like best case scenario, and that's not even that good. So I'm just gonna go F for Tyvar.
F. Okay, I had a D-, which I guess is similar. But,
yeah, very similar. Next up, we got Venser Corpse Puppet. So this is blue-black for a 1/3 at rare. Lifelink, Toxic 1. And it says, whenever you proliferate, choose one. If you don't control a creature named the Hollow Sentinel, create the Hollow Sentinel, a legendary 3/3 colorless Phyrexian Golem artifact token, or target artifact creature you control gains flying and lifelink until end of turn.
Yeah, this thing is great.
Yeah.
Like, just lifelink and Toxic 1 on a 1/3 body already gets me pretty happy. And of course, it gets better the more proliferate you have. If you have 0 proliferate, I think you probably still play this.
Yeah, 1/3 lifelink Toxic.
You have and then every 3 to 4 proliferate cards you add to the deck and boost it by a letter grade or so. It's a really good card.
Yeah, it reminds me of Tetsunari from Neon Dynasty, the Toad Maker, kind of, a little bit. But yeah, this is a very strong card. I think I'd give this probably an A-.
A-, I had a B+.
Yeah. I think just you're gonna be able to, and blue-black. Of course, the idea here is it's the color that's the best at proliferating. It's the most dense. Proliferation is the most dense in these colors, so I expect you'll have at least 3 or 4 ways to trigger this. And if you can trigger it once, it's great. So yeah, I'll stick with A-.
Okay, and next you have Atraxa. Okay.
Yeah, so I'll read this next one. Atraxa Grand Unifier. This is kind of a weird one. So 3 green, white, blue, black. So 7 mana, all colors but red. 7/7, flying, vigilance, death touch, lifelink. And it also says, when Atraxa Grand Unifier enters the battlefield, reveal the top 10 cards of your library. For each card type, you may put a card of that type from among the revealed cards into your hand. Reveal, put the rest on the bottom in any order, and then it'll, kind of funny here, it lists the card types, and one of the card types it says is battle, and that's like, yeah, a little preview of a card type. We don't know what that is yet. I think in the next set, March of the Machine, it's going to be the debut of battle, so a little sneak peek there. But that aside, we've got a massive monster flying death touch vigilance lifelink that's going to draw 3 cards, most likely.
Yeah, it's a weird way to add a lot of words to what's basically draw 3 or 4.
Yep.
But it does make it kind of more build around-y, so I get the appeal. But this is just more going with the theory of just adding words to cards to make them more interesting, which, sure, fine.
Yeah.
But this thing seems extremely hard to cast in this format.
Yeah, so I can imagine, imagine a green deck, because that's the color that has the most, multicolor fixing if you want it. Maybe green-blue. And, it's a double splash at that point, even white and black. I do think it's hard to cast, but I also think it's definitely worth casting. This is a hell of a payoff.
Yeah, well, the fact that it costs 7 gives you some time to get your mana in order.
Mm-hmm.
But there's at this point you got to start putting those manoliths in your deck, which
well, do you what if you just have a bunch of the green 1 mana, the Lay of the Land, go get a land / proliferates? You just have 3 of those, and you're base blue green, and you have a swamp and a island, or sorry, swamp and plains in the deck. Like, I don't think you have to be playing Manolith to be playing this card.
Yeah, this kind of goes. Does this go back to you like playing 9 swamps in your Invoke
In
Despair
my
decks?
Invoke Despair deck? No, I don't think so. We don't talk about that.
Yeah, I still think it's like it's weird because on card strength it gets 1 rating, and
Yeah.
then on like, well, are you actually going to cast it? It gets another rating.
Yeah, totally.
So like, I don't know if we're rating it on picks or strength. I'm gonna give it like B plus, just based on how hard it is to cast.
Yeah, it's one of those weird grades that you have to, like, this is where the grading system kind of fails us a little bit, where it's just like, oh, we're talking in averages, we're talking about, like, contextless situations. It's basically, yeah, if you think you're in a spot where maybe you first pick it and then you do take fixing pretty highly, or you're in a spot where you're green and then you're like, you see it in pack 2, I think you can get in, 5, 6, 7 ways to fix your mana pretty seamlessly. There is that Evolving Wilds, Terramorphic Expanse. So I think I'm a little more optimistic about it than you. But I could just see this being like super hard to cast, and maybe the format's not conducive to 7-drop. So I'm gonna join you at B plus. I think anybody listening kind of gets the gist of this card, where it's very powerful, but it's also very hard to cast. And I think it's not gonna be impossible. It sounds like you're a little bit less sure about that, but I do think that this is a real thing to be doing.
Yeah, chat points out that it's not a cast trigger, so you can reanimate it with the uncommon.
True. Yeah, that's a good call.
There are some ways to discard it, so like that might be an actual better way to do it than trying to cast this thing.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, weird card, but the dream is there and it is powerful. Let's move on now to just quickly. We've got a cycle of dual lands: Blackcleave Cliffs, Razor Verge Thicket, Seachrome Coast. All of these. These fast lands, like we call them, they all say when it enters the battlefield, it comes in tapped unless you control 2 or fewer lands. So basically, if this is land drop 1, 2, or 3, you will be able to have this untapped, and past that, it's going to be a tap land.
Yeah, I have these, like, I like taking duels that don't come into play tap. Like, it does sometimes, but usually doesn't. It's still going to be worse than like Terramorphic Expanse, so I probably have these at like, we rated those C+, so I think I'd give these like a C.
Yeah, I think so too. And this is, by the way, these are the allied color pairs: blue, black red, green white, blue white. If you look at the back of the Magic card, it's the colors that are touching each other. Also, if you want to see a really cool piece of art, look at the full border Seachrome Coast, the blue white one, because it's just an island with a bunch of giant teeth on it, giant molars. Like, they're kind of the landscape. So yeah, I agree with you, C on those.
Okay. Next we have a sphere land. So this is called Mythics. It can tap for colorless. It can tap to add 1 mana of any color only if it entered the battlefield this turn, and you can pay 3 and tap it to make a 1/1 colorless might token with toxic and can't block. I don't know if we need to cover that again, but it's a might.
Yeah, so we've got a few lands in a row here that are all spheres, which are like representative of like the different layers of Phyrexia, basically, to tie this into the story if you pay attention to that at all. And they're all colorless lands with like various activated abilities. So this one here, it comes at 1 shot, fixes you, which is kind of cool. Like that's not a thing that we've had kind of lands like that before. We've seen in some sets, and that activated ability is pretty good. My bar for colorless lands in limited is pretty high. I think, generally, I always say, your limited mana bases are really bad. Having a colorless land is a really, really large cost, bigger than most people think it is. Like, Mark, how many Takeda dig sites did you see playing Brothers of War on the other side of the battlefield?
A few,
yeah.
But I never played one myself.
Oh, yeah, it's more than you would expect, right? More than you would put in your deck, basically, right? I think
it's also just I played a lot of Brothers War.
Yeah, that's fair too. But then this one, like, it's doing a good job, and it does fix you to some extent. Like, and that 3 mana activated ability is pretty good, I think.
Knowing the lore, though, man, you're such a nerd. Eh? Like,
yeah, Mark's coming on here to bully me. That was his ultimate goal.
No, I love you, Alex. But yeah, I think this is worth the drawback. Like, making mites at instant speed is very powerful, even though they're not chump blockers. Mm-hmm. It helps you, like, if you're struggling to get your Corrupted in, it can eventually get that through for you. We've seen a bunch of anthems in the format. Like this, I really like this with all the different anthems we have.
Yeah.
It's also an instant speed trigger for Artifact Fall. So that's going to help you in a lot of spots too. I have this probably at like C plus, and that I'm gonna play it almost all the time that I have it.
Yeah, I think so too. You have to kind of temper it as like, you know, one of the things that's tricky about these lands, or just like any rare lands, often they get taken higher than I think, you know, I would personally. So you often like, you know, they get first pick, second picked, and I would think, you know, if we're drafting in a competitive pod where everybody, you know, nobody's rare drafting, nobody's doing anything like that, they probably should go like, you know, sixth or seventh pick or something. So I imagine you're not going to see these cards as often, or once you take them as highly, like there's going to be good commons and uncommons, you'll take over them first pick. But it's a good card if you make it in your deck and, or sorry, if it makes it into your deck and you're not spending too high of a pick on it. So yeah, C plus. I agree.
Okay.
Next up, second. Oh, so yeah, go ahead. You read it.
Yeah, sorry. We have. I think it's me, isn't it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Maybe it's not. Who knows? Whatever. I'm going to do it anyways. We have the Monumental Facade. Oh, I did do the last one. You're right. I did the spheres. So we have our second sphere. So the Monumental Facade enters the battlefield with 2 oil counters on it, taps for colorless, and you can tap, remove an oil counter from it to put an oil counter on target artifact or creature you control. Activate only as a sorcery.
So I definitely like this one a lot less.
Yeah.
Never making colored mana is a knock against it, and its effect I think is worse than the last land we saw. I think that, well, you know, the oil counter is that means something. It's going to be an additional activation of an ability, or you know, whatever. But it's also like kind of low impact, low enough impact that it's not worth putting a colorless land in your deck, I would think.
Yeah, this similar, like in Brothers War, there was these payoffs for being monocolor that you needed all basics. Yep. You could draft monocolor decks. In this format, if you're a monocolor deck, I like this quite a bit. But if you're playing 2 colors, your mana base just isn't good enough to support it. So I do think it's pretty strong in monocolor decks, but I'm going to give it a rating as if you're playing 2 color most of the time. And I think that rating is probably like D plus.
Yeah, I think so too. And worth noting, we were talking yesterday about like a potential mono red deck, and this does fit into that, right? Just like red cares a lot about oil counter. So if you're there, it's closer to like a C plus probably. But yeah, I think blanket D plus-ish area. All right, next up we got the Mycosynth Gardens, another sphere land. Tap, add colorless mana. 1 tap, add 1 mana of any color, so it filters you. And then X tap, the Mycosynth Garden becomes a copy of target non-token artifact you control with mana value X.
Yeah, I'm so sad. You know, we had Crystal Grotto in Dominaria United. We had Hall of Targon in Brothers War, and I just loved both of those. So I don't even think you need to ask me. Like I love this card. I think it's so good.
Yeah, it's so funny. You for the longest time, I was always so gun shy about these kind of lands, like the 1 tap filter your mana basically. Maybe they have some other effect. Because I think for a long time they just like weren't very good, or the sets they were in that like didn't really like you didn't splash very much or whatever. But you're actually the one that kind of turned me around. I remember early in Dominaria United, you're like, you know, like not that Crystal Grotto was amazing, but it does enough little things. Like it helps you, like for in this set, you know, this activated ability might help you, you know, activate a off-color spell bomb if somehow that makes it into your deck or something, and it does enable a splash at a cost, or you're always paying 1 more, but it's not as painful as I think I had considered. And after playing a bunch of Crystal Grotto and Hall of Targon in specific spots as well, I agree. I think these lands are slightly better than I think a lot of people give them credit for. That said, how much do we like that make a token or a copy of a token?
Yeah, so to be clear, if they start
making a sorry, just let me get that clear there. It becomes a copy of target non-token artifact. Copy of an artifact.
Right, but permanently though.
Yeah, permanently, yeah.
But at that point, it no longer taps for mana though, right? Because it doesn't retain these abilities. So you're just turning it into a spell. And to be clear, if they start printing these again without the extra abilities, I don't like just like default whatever it is. But this one, I do think there's going to be less splashing in this set. But I also think that ability is very powerful. Like it's more powerful than Hall of Targon to be able to turn it into just an artifact. I probably still have this at like a C plus.
Yeah, I think C plus is about right for me too. Yeah, that like turning your land into a spell or like an actual permanent that attacks blocks or whatever, that's pretty powerful. So yeah, I agree with C plus.
Great.
Actually, do you want to just like talk quickly through your because I know a lot of people in chat are saying, oh, I thought Crystal Grotto type cards were unplayable. What's, like you said, you're not just gonna play the cards with no abilities. Crystal Grotto Scryed one, but what's your just very quick your take on those kind of lands?
Well, Scry 1 is like when you consider that Scry 2 is kind of worth a card ish. So Scry 1 is like half a card's worth, and that's a lot. So with Dominaria United, there was a lot of off-color kicker costs. So just having like an extra in the late game, having the ability to kick something, like kick the gain 3 life on Geyser in your blue-black deck, or kick just some off-color spell, maybe your Keldon Strike team in your red-green deck. So I would do that very often and just use it as like ways to get my kicker costs in there. And then just the ability to scry 1, it often was worth a card, especially if you were doing it in the late game. So I wouldn't usually want it to be, there was a limit to them. There was one deck I had in the format where I played 4 Crystal Grottos, and I was like, okay, this doesn't work. You can't have 3 of them out at a time.
Yeah.
You need some way to make real mana sources without filtering it. But having like one of these in your deck, I usually build fairly responsible mana bases. So if you're good at building mana bases, the more value you're going to get out of something like this.
Yep, agree with that. Be careful and be diligent about where you put it. But yeah, I think these, like you said, definitely lands like these that have an upside. Consider them. All right, next up, our last sphere land. We've got the Seed Core. So this is a rare. Also taps to add colorless. Also taps to add 1 mana of any color. Spend this mana only to cast Phyrexian creature spells. Also has Corrupted. Tap, target 1/1 creature gets +2/+1 until end of turn. Activate only if the opponent has 3 or more poison counters, so Corrupted. This is interesting because, like you alluded to a second ago, almost all of the creature spells in this set are Phyrexians. I think it's like 90% of them. So this is going to add colored mana for almost all of your creatures.
Yeah, like without that bottom line of text, I think this actually helps your mana base more than it hurts it.
Me too.
Because even though you can't use it for spells, I think usually it's going to cast almost all of your creatures, and you still have the ability to tap for colorless for spells.
Right.
So I actually like this land quite a lot, like specifically with some of these creature rares or some of the uncommon creatures we saw yesterday, where this gives you a source of being able to splash those without having to add another basic. And again, I always want to avoid making my mana base worse, right? So if you're splashing, we talked about this yesterday, I want to play 1 or 0 of the off-color basic. This is a great way to do that. I think I have this at maybe a B-.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say too. Like that pump ability, that Corrupted, it's kind of a callback to Pendelhaven.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Except it's the reverse.
Yeah, it's the reverse, +1/+2. Yeah. And making your mites 3/2 attackers, that's pretty good. So yeah, I agree. This is a land that fixes your mana and has upside. So yeah, but sorry, what was the grade you gave it?
I gave it a B-.
Cool. Yeah, I'll join you there.
Sure.
All right, we're moving out onto artifacts. What's our first artifact here?
Yeah, next we have Argentum Masticore. So another kind of a callback here. 5 mana for a 5/5 artifact creature. It has first strike, protection from Multicolor. At the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice it unless you discard a card. When you discard a card this way, destroy target non-land permanent an opponent controls with mana value less than or equal to the mana value of the discarded card.
Yeah, so this is like you're alluding to here. It's going to call back to many Masticores of the past that all made you discard a card to keep them around for some effect, and they're usually pretty large and beefy. And 5/5 first strike pro multicolored. That's like a pretty good stat line for a 5/5. Very difficult to block. And yeah, that discard ability is downside-ish, but it's more upside than downside, I would say, most of the time.
I was actually going to ask you, do you think this is a downside or an upside?
Yeah, I think that there's going to be times when it feels like, oof, there's nothing, the card I have in my hand that's, lands discarding a land into this doesn't do anything.
No, that's not true. Lands can kill mites.
Oh man, lands can kill mites. That's a good call. Yeah, good call. It kills tokens. So lands, not always going to do something, but that's true for any mana value along the curve of what you have in your hand. Sometimes you're going to have an awkward hand where your hand doesn't line up with the things that you want to kill. But I do think it's mostly an upside because wouldn't you just want to turn all the cards in your hand into free removal spells, right? I think that is an upside. Now you have to at some point start sandbagging cards and to keep this around, but how long is this going to stay around and your opponent's going to stay alive still, right? You have a 5/5 attacking and are killing a lot of their stuff. So I think this card's really good.
How good do you think it is, Alex?
Yeah, I would probably give this a minus, just for the flexibility, the colorlessness. I just think that. So I actually haven't played with a lot of Masticore-esque cards before. Do you often end up in spots where you need to sacrifice it, or does it just get to the point where it's like, well, I have to just discard a card each turn? Or, I mean, maybe put it this way. Are there spots where you would prefer to sacrifice this card rather than just keep feeding the top card of your library to these kind of cards? Or do you usually you're just like, okay, well, I don't have a top deck. This is just what it is, and I'm feeding my Masticore forever.
I've played against Masticore a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get a bit off topic here, but I have a Masticore aficionado in my play group that still thinks it's cube playable, like even the original one, and consistently beats me with it, even though I can never win with it. So you're asking the wrong person here, but overall, like they've usually been really strong, but they also usually have some kind of mana ability, right? Where like even if you're going to lose it on your upkeep, you can throw a bunch of mana into it and kill creatures. Mm-hmm. And make it do a little bit more on that side. So the fact that I don't know whether this is a downside or an upside, I almost just want to treat it like a 5/5 first strike for 5. And I think for that, I'll just give it like a B+.
Okay, yeah. I think that's about right. I think this card is like just put a stamp on it. That ability is more upside than downside most of the time. What's up next? We got the Filigree Silex. This is 2 mana for a legendary artifact at rare. Tap, put an oil counter on the Filigree Silex. Tap, sacrifice the Silex. Destroy each non-land permanent with mana value equal to the number of oil counters on the Silex. A third ability, tap it, remove 10 oil counters from among permanents you control. Sacrifice the Silex, it deals 10 damage to any target.
Yeah, so this is really similar to a card we've seen before called Ratchet Bomb. Mm-hmm. It just didn't have that third ability. I do think that third ability will come up every once in a while. There's a lot of things come in with 3 or 4 oil counters on them, and this adds counters to it as well. So I'm looking at this as like a Ratchet Bomb with upside. Ratchet Bomb was always more of a constructed card than a limited card.
Yep.
But in limited, it was passable. There was spots you could set up where it would be pretty good, and it could get you like a 2-for-1, or it could get you like a removal spell it could get you some tempo, killing a 3-drop or a 4-drop. But it does that very slowly. Proliferate, though, is really interesting with this because Proliferate helps you do it faster. But I don't know if this is going to come up, but I can picture a scenario where your opponent might want to proliferate onto this to avoid having a situation where they get 2-for-1 with something. So it can be a downside as well.
That's true. We haven't really talked about that, but you can choose to proliferate your opponent's stuff if for whatever reason, like on the Silex, you think it's a good thing. Yeah, so I played with Ratchet Bomb in limited. I think M14 is the last time that was in a limited set, and yeah, like you said, it's fine. It's not. It kills tokens right away, which is kind of nice. You can just play this, and it's a really good sideboard card against an opponent that has a lot of tokens. Like you said, that's kind of the constructed application generally, or to kill like a bunch of one drops. And then yeah, it's fine. It's not exciting. I think that last ability definitely makes it more playable, more main deckable, but I still don't think it's gonna be a high pick or anything. So I'd probably give this like a C-, maybe a sideboard grade is more apt for this.
I was gonna give it a D+.
Yeah,
I could see it. I think whether it's a D+ or C- depends on how realistic it is to get that last ability going.
Yeah.
But even then, it's like pretty slow to deal 10, and you can't do anything else with this in the meantime. Like you can't use the second and the third ability.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm gonna stick D+.
All right. Fair enough. What do we have next?
Next, we have Graz, Unstoppable Juggernaut, which is 8 mana for a 7/5 legendary artifact creature. It is a Juggernaut. Juggernauts you control attack each combat if able. Juggernauts you control, of course, cannot be blocked by walls. And all other creatures you control have base power and toughness 5/3 and are Juggernauts in addition to their other creature types.
Yeah, that Juggernauts you control can't be blocked by walls. That should just and the first line can't have to track each turn if able. That should have just been like implied text. That should have just been like you have to look up in the Oracle if you don't know it, but it's a Juggernaut. It turns your things into Juggernauts, of course. Weird card.
Sorry.
No, yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say there's I'm noticing now how many callbacky cards they're doing between like throwing the random battle cry here and like affinity and Juggernauts and Ratchet Bombs and Masticores. Yeah, There's more than I realized.
Yeah,
Sorry,
they've done an interesting thing where I think recently they've actually said, like, they're more willing to do, like, one-ofs, like, Battle Cry here, and just, like, Flashback. Like, we saw a green card's Flashback, and that's not the other thing that said. So, yeah, definitely interesting. For Grass here, 8 mana. That's a lot, but if you have any board presence, you're probably just going to kill the opponent when you either kill them or put them in a really tough spot where they have to make really bad blocks when this comes down.
Go on.
you're like, but you're waiting for Alex to be like, but yeah, I mean 8 mana. 8 mana is the butt, basically. Like if this costs 5 or whatever for a 5/3 with that ability, I think it'd be really ridiculous. But 8 mana is a lot.
Yeah. So well, I guess I'll get you to lock in a grade before I.
Yeah, for sure. I would give this, in the context of the set, like I think 8's gonna be prohibitive, so I would give this like a D.
Sorry, did you say a grade? I didn't hear.
So yeah, I'd give it a D.
D. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I thought you were going to go higher than that. Yeah, I'm on D minus. I think it's easy to picture the best case scenario with this, but because for each creature you have more than your opponent, your creature is taking a minimum of 5 damage, right? Like if you have a bunch of flyers, you're going to just kill them. Even if you have a bunch of like those 0/0s with oil, they actually become even bigger. They can be like 6/4s or 7/5s.
Yep.
But you have to have gotten 8 mana sources out. So how are you getting more permanents in play when you're spending all these permanents playing lands? I think most of the time you play this, you're going to be behind because you spent so much time getting to 8 mana, and it's just awful if you're behind.
Yeah, it's like kind of nice with the green 1-drop that like untaps lands, like that gets you to this quicker. That's a mana source and it is a creature itself that'll start attacking. But yeah, I just think 8's just gonna be too much for this. That doesn't necessarily, like, yes, and the game on the spot a lot of times, but also can be finicky. Your opponent can have like, you know, an instant speed removal spell. Like you said, you have to tap some creatures maybe sometimes to cast this. So yeah, pretty low grade. I'll give it a D. Next up, we got Mirren's Safe House. So this is 3 mana for an artifact at rare. As long as Mirren's Safe House is on the battlefield, weird wording, it has all of activated abilities of all lands in all graveyards.
Yeah, so I already locked in an F for both of us. Let's go to the next one.
Yep, I agree with that. Just not for us. Next up, another one that might not be for us.
Next, we have Monument to Perfection, which is 2 mana artifact. Pay 3, tap it, search your library for a basic, sphere, or locust land, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. And pay 3, Monument to Perfection becomes a 9/9 Phyrexian construct artifact creature, loses all abilities, and gains indestructible and toxic 9. Activate only if there are 9 or more lands with different names among the basic, sphere, and locust lands you control.
Yeah, which that last part won't happen. You're just not going to have that many different kind of lands. And the first part of it is a Journeyer's Kite or whatever it is from we just saw in Brothers War on the sheet of you know, the artifact sheet. That was not very good, so I'm just going to give this an F.
Yep. It says, I did see Sam Black play Journeyer's Kite once in Brothers War and trophy with it, but the rest of us are not Sam Black.
Yeah.
So
Next up, we got Soulless Jailer. This is 2 mana at rare for an 0/4 artifact creature. Permanents in the graveyard can't enter the battlefield, and players can't cast non-creature spells from graveyards or exile. Just another F. Yeah, just not for us.
It's a body. It's an artifact.
Okay, it's no 5, no 4.
It's a D minus.
A D minus. All right, I'll give you a D minus there. Next one.
You are just, and I could see this being a decent sideboard card in best of 3, where your opponent's playing a bunch of ground in toxic cards. Like it blocks. Anyways,
it blocked. It is true.
Next one. This one should be pretty quick too, I think. Staff of Is this completion or completion?
Completion. Yeah, completion.
Completion. It's just completion. Okay. It is an artifact that you can tap and pay 1 life to destroy target permanent you own. Tap and pay 2 life to add 1 mana of any color. Tap and pay 3 life to proliferate. Tap and pay 4 life to draw a card. Or pay 5 to untap it.
Yeah, all of this is just way too much, way too costly. This is just an F. Paying 4 life to draw a card, way too much. Yeah, like all the numbers on here are just too bad for us. So yeah, just an F.
Yeah, just awful.
Next up, we got a good one. Sword of Forge and Frontier. So a green-red sword has entered the battlefield. 3 mana for a mythic equipment. Equipped creature gets +2/+2 and has protection from green and red. Just straight up actual protection. And it says, whenever equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, Exile the top 2 cards of your library. You can play those cards this turn, and you can play an additional land this turn. Equip 2.
Yeah, so this one is, like, the swords have always been good. Some of them are absolutely broken.
Yep.
This one, usually there's often like a turn 5 when you'll play it and equip it and hit. So even if you connect with it, you're not likely to, like, you may be getting a land off of it, but you're not getting another spell. That being said, it's still a sword. It still effectively can hit for +2 card advantage every time. I think it's probably like an A-ish.
Yeah, that's what I would put it to. Yeah, just colorless, goes in pretty much every deck, and you're going to face somebody with green and red cards a good portion of the time. Like green and or red cards. So yeah, I'd give it an A-.
Okay.
Next up.
Next we have Tablet of Completion, 2-mana artifact. Tap to put an oil counter on it. Tap to add colorless. Activate only if it has 2 or more oil counters on it. And pay 1 tap to draw a card. Activate only if it has 5 or more oil counters on it. And I think, like, I know it's your turn to say stuff, but this is just another F.
Yeah, no, if it's my turn to say something and it's just an F, feel free to just say an F, because I agree. This is just an F. And if I have some sort of disagreement, I'll say it, but no, this is just F. Way too slow.
Okay.
Next up, Zenith Chronicler. 2 mana for a artifact creature. So it's a 3/1. And it says, whenever a player casts their first multicolored spell each turn, each other player draws a card.
Yeah, so I guess the ideal scenario is you're not playing any multicolored spells with this, in which case it could be potentially annoying. If you have like 1 or 2 in your deck, you know that you have both of those. So if they're both in your hand, you can always play the multicolored card first and then play this. That being said, it's still not a ton of upside with a 2-mana 3/1. So I don't think it's great, but I don't think it's bad either. This reads like a C- to me, maybe a D+.
Yeah, I was gonna give it a C-. Like if you draw a card with this once in a while, well, that's kind of nice, but it's not gonna happen that often, and yeah, it's just 3/1. So yeah, C-.
Okay.
All right, moving on to white cards here. Start us with our big baddie of the set.
Yeah, we have Elish Norn returning. Elish Norn, Mother of Machines, 4 and a white for a 4/7 legendary creature with vigilance. If a permanent entering the battlefield causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. And permanents entering the battlefield don't cause abilities of permanents your opponents control to trigger.
Yeah, so I did a quick scan before we hopped on here, and there's actually not a ton of enter the battlefield effects in this format. Like, they definitely exist, and you've got some really good ones, like the white-black uncommon that destroys a creature if your opponent's corrupted. There's the red oil, cares about how many oil permanents you have and deals damage to that. Like, those are pretty good. A really cute thing you can do is with Terramorphic Expanse. You get 2 lands with that. Oh, sorry, no, you don't, because that's not a triggered ability. Never mind, that does not work. They'll work with the SNC lands in Standard. But yeah, I think a lot of the oil counter stuff, like, that doesn't count because it says enters with, so it won't actually, it's not actually triggering, so you don't get double oil counters or anything. So it reads really big and, fantastical, but it's not going to be more than a 5-mana 4/7 vigilance in a lot of decks. With, a few, maybe you'll have 1 or 2 things. How good is 5-mana 4/7 vigilance?
Well, yeah, still quite good, I think. And you also, like, you have the Diagraph Horde card.
Yeah, it makes the mites.
Yep. But, okay, the Dream Curve, like, this costs 5. Can you think of a card with a come into play ability that costs 6, Alex?
Oh, a card with a card. Our friend, it's the 6-drop black creature. It's the 5/5 Death Touch that makes your opponent discard a card.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. There you go.
I will be doing that this format, I promise you.
Yep, that's sweet.
I still think a 4/7 vigilance is just huge.
Yep.
Even if it's like the other box is textless, I'd still probably give this like a B+.
Yeah, I think so too. I started the conversation with, there's not that many into the battlefield events, just kind of to temper people, because I think a lot of people are looking at this thinking of, like, maybe constructed applications or potentially even commander applications. I think it's going to be scaling wise worse in limited than it is in those formats. But that said, there are still things you can build around. Like, it's not like, this is just a 4/7 vigilance. I don't want to paint it like that. So I'll join you at B+ there. I think especially when you have this card, you're gonna focus on some ETBs a little bit higher.
It's gonna be a fun cube card, that's for sure.
Yeah, for sure. This next one. Okay, well, here we go. Here's one of the big baddies of the set. for limited. Going to be a lot of complaints about this one, I'm sure. The Eternal Wanderer, 4 white for a 5 mana rare legendary planeswalker. No more than one creature can attack the Eternal Wanderer each combat. That's ecstatic ability, so it's just like already got that kind of built-in protection. +1, exile up to one target creature or artifact, return it to the battlefield under its owner control. That's your stuff or your opponent's stuff. You can blink something for the +1. 0, create a 2/2 white samurai creature token with double strike. -4, each player for each player, choose a creature that player controls. Each player sacrifices all creatures they control not chosen this way. So you're going to say, I keep my best thing, you keep your worst thing. And it's still going to, the Wanderer is still going to stick around with a single loyalty after that.
So I've already locked us both in for A+,
yes,
for the record.
Yep.
But it's actually even better than what you read.
Oh, God. Okay, what did I miss here?
So you said the +1 is to blink, but it returns at the beginning of that player's next end step.
Oh,
so if you target one of their creatures, they can't attack with it.
Yep, that's true. Wow. Huh. Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, I didn't read that. And of course, you got a blocker out of the way, if that's something you care about, too. Wow. That's great.
This thing should have been a Mythic.
This should have been. I mean, either Mythic or they tone it down a little bit, because this, like, they can't make this Mythic because the non-completed planeswalkers are the rare ones, I think is the idea. But yeah, that's just like, wow, insane. All right, A+.
This is just better than, like, if I had to choose this or like Titania's Command or whatever, like, it's this.
Yeah,
right? It's always this.
Yeah. Wild. Anyways, what's our next one?
Next, we have Kemba Ka Enduring, 1 and a white for a 2/2 legendary creature. Whenever Kemba Ka Enduring or another cat enters the battlefield under your control, attach up to 1 target equipment you control to that creature. Equipped creatures you control get +1/+1, and pay 3 white to create a 2/2 white cat creature token.
Yeah, this is nice. It's just like a, you've got a mana sink, a good mana sink, and the equipped creatures you control get +1/+1. That just means mostly that your 4 Mirrodin things are going to be +1/+1. I mean, no, it's better than that, obviously, because then your equipment all have a built-in +1/+1 to them as well. So yeah, this is a strong card. Around the same level as like Jorkadine as far as making you want to put equipment in your deck, you think?
I think it's better than Jorkadine just because Jorkadine can be a slightly worse top deck, and like this, if you just have like 7 mana, like even if you have a kill spell, you're getting value out of this, right?
Totally.
So I have this as at an A-.
Cool. Yeah, I'll join you there too.
Sure.
Next up, we've got Mondrak, Glory Dominus. So there's this cycle of mythic Phyrexian gods, kind of. So this is 2 white for a 4/4 at Mythic. If 1 or more tokens would be created under your control, twice that many tokens are created instead. So it doubles your tokens, and then it's got this ability. They all have some variant of this. 1 Phyrexian white mana, which is 1 and 4 life, or 1 and 1 mana and 2 life, sacrifice 2 other artifacts and or creatures, put an indestructible counter on Mondrak.
Yeah, so I think this is maybe like this or the black one are the worst ones of the set, I think. That being said, you don't just because you have to sacrifice like 2 actual permanents on board that you've put mana into. But that being said, you don't have to activate it. Like it has a threat of activation, right? You can just anytime you're leaving a single mana up, you're threatening to give this indestructible. That being said, the static ability isn't doing that much. Like there's a few mites here and there. There's a few rebel tokens from for Mirrodin. There's a few cats if you're lucky with Kemba. But I don't think it's going to be that much better than a 4/4 for 4 most of the time.
Yeah, that's my read too. I think that you can potentially take those cards a little bit higher. But it's not, kind of just like what I was saying with Elishnorn. I think it's not as it's not going to be as good as if you could build around this in like a constructed format. That said, it's still going to be a fine ability that has that threat of activation. I'd probably give this a B.
That's what I just wrote down for myself.
Cool.
As well.
Yeah, B for Mondrak. All right. Next up.
Next, we have Norn's Wellspring, 1 and a white for an artifact. Whenever a creature you control dies, scry 1 and put an oil counter on Norn's Wellspring. Pay 1, tap it, remove 2 oil counters from Norn's Wellspring, draw a card.
Yeah, these always tend to play worse than they look. Like, these kind of cards, they don't do much when they come in, and, like, Scry 1 is something, of course, but for having to remove 2 things to draw a card, obviously that could be an oil counter and you proliferate a bunch, but, the 1 mana, one mana is about as low as you can go without it being free to tap, but that matters too. Like, you're gonna not always gonna be able to fit that in and play the creature you want, so it's just a little bit slow. Like, I could definitely imagine a black-white deck that really, really takes advantage of this. This is like your engine card that you're building around. I think in most decks, it's just like not going to be a card you want very much. So I'm going to give this a C- with some build around potential, where I can definitely imagine decks where you are grinding and white is a color that you're playing, which isn't always going to be the case, that you want this. But I don't think this is a fantastic card.
Okay, yeah, I wrote down D+, so I'll just stay there.
Yeah, so similar thoughts as I do, I assume? Cool.
Yeah, build around C- and a D+ are fairly similar.
Yeah. All right, next up we've got another Mythic, Phyrexian Vindicator. So this is white for a 5/5 flyer. It says, if damage would be dealt to Phyrexian Vindicator, prevent that damage. When damage is prevented this way, Phyrexian Vindicator deals that much damage to any target. So it's a kind of color-shifted Phyrexian Obliterator, which is also in this set.
Yeah, this is another one that's kind of hard to grade. Because if you're playing this in mono white, it's like fantastic.
Yeah, it's an AA plus.
Yeah, well, it's probably like I think I give it an A if you're mono white, and then like for each mana source you have in your deck that doesn't produce white, you reduce like a grade or whatever, right? So like 1 becomes an A-, then 2 becomes a B+, because every time you can't, like, if this is a 4-drop, it's insane. If it's a 5-drop, it's still good. It's a 6-drop, still good. Again, once you get to like 7 or 8, you need 8 lands in play to play it. It's not that good anymore.
Yeah, I think that the minimum number of planes I would want to cast this, like the bare minimum, and I'm like kind of gritting my teeth a little bit, is like 12, and that's tough. You really want to aim for monocolored, and that's kind of the scale, right? 12 is the minimum, monocolored if you can. Anywhere in there it gets better as you go up, basically. So yeah, not unplayable if you've got only 12, but that's still an ask. I think this, at least early in the format, when people maybe don't know how good the white cards are, at least that's what we think, the white cards are really good, it might be easier to get it closer to mono white deck than it will be a little bit later in the format, if our prediction is right and white is really, really great. But yeah, just keep that in mind when you're drafting this card and putting it into your deck, basically.
Yeah, like the nice thing about this one is, if there's any color where you're just going to first pick it and just take every white card and be reasonably happy, the color to do it in is white.
Yep, for sure. Because
it's just so deep, right?
Yes.
So I still think, like, again, if you're mono white, I think it's an A. I'm just going to give it an A- due to difficulty of cast, but I'm assuming that that's being responsible.
Yep, I agree with that. All right, and what's next?
Next, we have Skrelv. Skrelv Defector Might, which is white for a 1/1 legendary artifact creature. It has Toxic 1. It can't block. You can pay Phyrexian white and tap it to choose a color. Another target creature you control gains Toxic 1 and Hexproof from that color until end of turn. It can't be blocked by creatures of that color this turn.
Yeah, this is a cool card. It's like a Phyrexian Mother of Runes, sort of. Well, definitely some differences. You can't make it. It can't be an infinite blocker, especially you can't make something else an infinite blocker because it's hexproof from not protection. But as an aggressive card, this is really good.
Yeah, this is like how they like fixed protection. Although it is weird that they have Sword, which gives protection, and then they have this.
Right. Yeah.
Really, like if you're gonna do one, just. But I can understand why they didn't want to just say protection for blocking purposes, but it's still a very strong card. Yeah,
so for those who maybe haven't played with this style of card before, basically what happens is you play this on 1, and from that point on, they have to kill this before they kill anything else, obviously, because this will protect anything else that they point a removal spell at. And just taxing their removal like that is pretty good. Let's not even forget about using this proactively, which is a big deal too, right? Just don't be afraid to proactively be like, all right, my 2 toxic creature gets in, I'm getting it Toxic 1 as well, so it's Toxic 3, and it's just hitting you, you can't block it. Or they've got some red creatures and some black creatures, and their black creatures are bigger than the red creatures, so you go, all right, can't be blocked by black creatures, and they have a tough time in combat. So yeah, really strong. Really cheap, really efficient. I just give this probably like an A minus.
Yeah, it is almost laughable how far of a pendulum swing this goes between being like insane if you're the aggressor to like really bad if you're
Yeah,
not the aggressor.
it's a good call.
But you said what, A minus? What you
Yeah.
said? Yeah, on the assumption that you're going to be the aggressor. You know what? I'm going to give it a B plus, just because if you're on the draw against some decks in this format, I think like it can't even block.
True. Yeah,
So,
it is very much a one-sided card. So, you know what? I'll actually join you there. I think B plus is actually more appropriate. Like, even when you're thinking about, like, okay, well, I'm being optimistic, I'm putting this in my aggro deck, like, you're right. Sometimes you just face another aggro deck, and this card's going to do very little. So,
and
high
then
upside,
even if you like stabilize towards the end, the cost of paying the 2 life instead of the white is maybe something you can't do anymore. So, yeah.
Yep, it matters. All right, next up we've got, we had Skrelv, now we have Skrelv's Hive. So this is 1 in a white for an enchantment at rare. At the beginning of your upkeep, you lose a life and you create a 1/1 Might token. Corrupted, as long as an opponent has 3 or more poison counters, creatures you control with Toxic have lifelink. Ooh, so it's a Bitter Blossom callback here.
Yeah, but like way worse.
Way worse, yeah. Because
way worse.
The thing with Bitter Blossom is, yes, it was dinging you, but you could always block and just, you know, any 5 power creature or whatever coming at you, you could reduce that to essentially 1 damage coming at you. Now, they try to make that up to you by making eventually your opponent, or these mites have lifelink, or anything you have with Toxic have lifelink. Is that good enough, though?
Well, they still, like, there are going to be a lot of times when my opponent's going to cast this and I'm going to be like, yes, I'm killing them faster.
Yep.
Like, this can be downright bad if you're behind. So it's kind of funny that both Skrelv and Skrelv's Hive are just very much, I need to be the aggressor, otherwise I don't really do anything. That being said, if you are the aggressor, it probably means it's not turn 2 that you're playing this, right? Because like if you do this on turn 2, you're not infecting the board, you're not getting ahead on tempo. So I don't actually think it's like that good. Like I don't think there's a spot where you really can fit this in to play it where you're happy. So I think I'm probably going to give it a fairly low grade, which might be really wrong, but I want to give it like a C minus.
Yeah, I was going to give it a C plus. I had very similar thoughts, kind of as you were, you know, when I first read this card, and then kind of leading up to this, and how you're talking out there is very similar to what I thought. Where it reads really well and it looks very exciting, but in practice, I think it's a little bit worse than you might think. Just if you're just like not really thinking about how it plays out in game. So yeah, I think it's a good card. Like you're not going to be sad to play it, but it's not a bomb level card. So yeah, C plus. If you're going C minus, I'll say it's C plus though.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, last white card. What do we have?
We have the first of a cycle of Twilights, which is White Sun's Twilight. This one is X white white for a sorcery. You gain X life. You create X 1/1 Might tokens, and if X is fire or more, destroy all other creatures.
Man, that's that's really good. So you mentioned this yesterday when we were talking about there's a ramp card in green. You're like,
yeah,
okay, like
this is one of the cards I was thinking about. Yeah,
like
sure.
do you want to? How badly do you want to get 7 mana? And all of these Twilights, they do something when X equals 5 at 7 mana, or sometimes it's 6 mana. But that effect is just ridiculously good. Like I do think the modality of this card is like it's not fake modality. It's not like you're never gonna cast it for X equals lower than 5, but like 6 mana, make 4 mites is so much worse than rat the board and then have 5 mites. So you really, really do want to make this a 7 mana card if you can.
Okay, yeah, I guess you're right. Like if you're, it's kind of weird because if you're behind, like you're almost never going to cast this for X equals 4 unless you're ahead. Because you're just going to want to hold off for that 1 more mana. And then again, like X equals 3 for 5 mana, you make 3 mites and gain 3 life. Like that's not really impacting the board that much. I think I'm not sure this gets cast for less than 5 that often. Aside from like, oh, I'm losing the game, I have to cast it because I can't die with this in my hand.
Yeah, there's also just gonna be times where you're like really pretty ahead and you're just like, all right, make 3 mites is like gonna be good. And like I can see the next turn or two be playing out in a way where it's like, well, I just need to push damage here. Making 3 mites for 5 mana is just like not that bad. So you know, it's not like you know, I don't want to say you're never casting it for less than 7, but that's the main course here basically.
Yeah. So, am I rating this one first, or are you?
I will give this still an A. I still think it's ridiculously good, even at 7 mana. So yeah, I don't know. I just think it's great. What would you give it?
Yeah, I'm happy to give it A on the assumption, but it does. You do need to be able to get to 7 mana.
Yep.
But if you get to 7, like this, especially they each have toxic, you're wiping the board and you're adding 5 poison counters to your opponent next turn.
Yep, it's a lot.
It's
a lot.
Yeah.
All right, our first blue card here is Blade of Shared Souls. So this is 2 and a blue for an equipment. It's got 4 Mirrodin, and it says, whenever Blade of Shared Souls becomes attached to a creature, for as long as Blade of Shared Souls remains attached to it, you may have that creature become a copy of another target creature you control, equipped to. So kind of, funky, kind of wordy wording here. But basically, when this enters, you can have your 2/2 become a copy of something else. Notably, no enter the battlefield effects. Oh wait, sorry, is that right? Becomes attached to a creature as long as it remains attached. You may have that creature. Actually, does this trigger enter the battlefield effects, or no?
Oh, that's a
good
question.
It's a weird one.
No, because it's when. So the first 4 Mirrodin is a trigger.
Yeah.
So it's when this enters the battlefield, it creates a 2/2. So it's gonna. Yeah, you won't get. It does. So you will not get the trigger.
And of course, you don't get it when you move it over as well. But 3 mana. And it's another creature you control. It's got that not awesome clone wording. But so you're paying 3 mana to clone something, and then you can keep moving it over to make your worst thing into your best thing, whatever that is, whatever on your board state that happens to be at the time. That's interesting. What do you think about this one?
I think it's pretty good, even though it's just a 3 mana 2/2 some of the time. Like, it's a card that you don't really want to cast on turn 3.
Right.
But I still think it's quite strong. Like, the absolute worst case scenario is a 3 mana 2/2. So it's never just going to be stone unplayable. But yeah, I didn't grok that you don't get any ETBs on it, which is unfortunate. I think I'm gonna say C+.
Yeah, I was leaning towards I'm coming back to the situation where you just maybe the first time isn't so great, and maybe this isn't great on curve for the first few turns, but you just get to the situation where your best thing is just you get 2 of your best thing every at any point of the game, and for only 2 mana, turning your worst thing into your best thing, and maybe that's a bit better than we think. I'm gonna say C+ as well.
You want to go up to? You want to move it up to Well, okay, I'll move mine to B- based on your assessment. What are you giving it?
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I was still gonna say C+, but I'm just saying that might be a little bit better than we think. I just think that the baseline of what you're doing on curve is pretty poor generally, so that knocks it down a little bit for me. So we'll see though. Yeah.
So am I now giving it a higher grade than you?
I think so. Yeah, I'm gonna give it a C+.
You tricked me.
Yeah. Next up, we've got the blue Twilight here. So this is Blue Sun's Twilight. X blue for a sorcery at rare. Gain control of target creature with mana value X or less. If X is 5 or more, create a token that's a copy. Wow. that's wild.
Yeah. This one I'm happier to cast for less than 5.
Yeah.
It's still a 2-for-1.
Yes, just 5 mana steal 3 drop, 6 mana steal 4 drop. Again, I mean, you want to get to the 5, of course, but you're totally fine not doing that. If you cast this for 5, you're gonna win the game so much of the time. Take their best thing and copy it. That's just ridiculously good. I think this is just an A.
Yep, I have it as an A as well. And worth noting, just in case anyone was curious, you don't need to copy something with converted mana cost 5 or more to make a copy.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
What's up next?
Next, we have Encroaching Mycosynth. So 3 and a blue for an artifact. Non-land permanents you control are artifacts in addition to their other types. The same is true for permanent spells you control and non-land permanent cards you own that aren't on the battlefield. This is a constructed F. Let's go to the next one.
Easy F. All right, next one. I think similar thing. Ikramor Gauntlet. This is a 2 and a blue mythic artifact. Planeswalkers you control have the abilities 0, proliferate, and -12, taking an extra turn after this one. And whenever you cast a non-creature spell, choose a counter on target permanent, put an additional counter on that kind of permanent. Sorry, put an additional counter of that kind on that permanent. So it's got some non-planeswalker text here, but it basically is worse proliferate when you cast a non-creature. I think it's also just an F.
Yep. Yeah. We talked down proliferate yesterday, and this is just worse.
Cool. All right, a good one. What's up next?
Next, we have Jace the Perfected Mind. So this costs 2, a blue and a Phyrexian blue for a 5 loyalty completed Planeswalker. So it can either be a 4 mana 5 loyalty or a 3 mana 3 loyalty. It has, which of course you have to pay 2 life. I think we can probably skip that reminder from now on. Now. +1 until your next turn. Up to 1 target creature gets -3/-0. -2 target player mills 3 cards. Then if a graveyard has 20 or more cards in it, you draw 3. Otherwise, you draw a card. And -X target player mills 3 times X cards.
Yeah, so I said a good one just instinctively, and I don't think this is bad, but it's not just like your typical Planeswalker template, or, I mean, uptake, protect itself, -2, kind of draw some cards with some steps in there. This sort of reminds me of like some of the original Jaces were just like these like milling machines that were just like 0 mill you for 10, and this isn't quite as potent, but you play this and it does protect itself, make something small, and that -2, you're gonna have to activate either that -2 a few times or that -X first to get to the point where you're drawing a card. I don't know. This is a funny one because it is okay and eventually will win the game, but it does take a while.
Well, no, -2 always draws you a card.
Sorry, I missed that. Yeah, -2 always draws you a card. My bad. Yeah.
Yeah, and also, like, I think you're kind of underestimating. So if you play this for 4 mana with 5 loyalty, you +1 it, and you basically nerf their largest attacker, right? Mm-hmm. Next turn, you untap. If you have just like a single way to proliferate, this goes to 7 loyalty, and you can mill them for 21.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, no, you sold me. That's true. The play patterns of that are very impactful.
Yeah, I think this is like better than it reads.
Okay. Yeah. No, you're right. I had a hard time rocking this at first. So what do you want to give it then?
I think I'm gonna give it a B+.
Yeah, I think after recalibrating, that's what I would have given it to. So, yep. Okay, cool. B+ for Jace.
Oh, hold up. I've lost my... What card did I miss? Did we miss a card, or did I just... What is Ickermoon Gauntlet? We haven't done Ickermoon Gauntlet yet.
That's the blue one. We did. Yeah.
I had one before. I was encroaching Mycosynth. Oh, I just didn't write down... Oh, somewhere I missed a card here. I must have put it in twice. Okay, I'll fix that in post.
All right, cool. All right, next up here we have Mercurial Spelldancer. So this is 1 and a blue for a 2/1 at rare. It can't be blocked, so just 2 mana 2/1 can't be blocked. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, put an oil counter on Mercurial Spelldancer, and whenever Mercurial Spelldancer deals combat damage to a player, you may remove 2 oil counters from it. If you do, when you cast your next instant or sorcery spell this turn, copy that spell. You may choose new targets for the copy.
Yeah, so again, a lot of words for like not necessarily a lot of actual meat and potatoes. I think it's functionally a 2/1 unblockable for 2 mana, which is still pretty good. And then it's your 3rd spell. If you're not proliferating, you can copy it for like every 3rd spell, right?
Well, it's every 3rd for the first.
Oh no, it's the 3rd. I guess it's the 3rd spell, and then every 2nd spell.
And then every second, yeah, exactly. That's pretty good. I think that's a powerful ability. Like, just imagine just copying. I mean, most spells. Like, obviously, a removal spell is good, but I would imagine this isn't that hard to get, like, the first trigger, and then obviously the snowballs if your opponent can't deal with it. But even just getting to that first one, I don't think is that difficult. I don't know. I like this card.
Yeah, I didn't really realize how needing 1 less spell each time to trigger it a 2nd time is I'm warming up to this thing. Yeah. I already thought it was pretty good, but I'm warming up even more.
Okay, I was gonna give it a B+. I think it's got the body's good, the ability's good, and it can either be just like good efficient card or really do more than that. So I just give it a B+.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
All right, what's next?
Next, we have Mind Splice Apparatus. 3 in the blue for an artifact with flash. At the beginning of your upkeep, put an oil counter on it. Instants and sorceries you cast cost 1 less for each oil counter on Mind Splice Apparatus, and we get another F.
Another F. Yep. Next. Awesome. Just does not do enough for 4 mana. All right, next up we've got Tekathal, Inquiry Dominus. This is the blue god. It's 2 blue for a 3/5 flyer. 4 mana for a 3/5 flyer. That's pretty good. If you would proliferate, proliferate twice instead, okay? And then it's got its protection ability is 1 Phyrexian mana. Remove 3 counters from among other artifacts, creatures, and planeswalkers you control. You put an indestructibility counter on it.
Yeah, so I think this one's like way better than the white one.
Yeah, me too. This is nice. The body's better. The protection ability is harder. Well, actually, maybe not. Maybe that's easier, actually, than sacrificing 2 creatures. Or easier might not be the right word, but less painful, certainly. And then the proliferate twice. Yeah, that's pretty nice, too. Yeah, I like it all around.
Yeah. Even, like, just the other body's a 4/4 do-nothing ground creature for 4, and this is a 3/5 flyer. Like, this is... Yeah, this thing's really strong.
Yeah. You want to give us an A-?
Yeah, I was going to say A-. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, great. A- for Tegothal. That brings us to our last blue card here. So what's up here?
So we have, this is my turn, yeah? Untis Grand Metatect. 1 blue for a 2/4 legendary artifact creature. Other blue creatures you control have, whenever this creature becomes tapped, draw a card, then discard a card. It has another static ability. Other artifact creatures you control get +1/+1. And you can pay a Phyrexian blue until end of turn. Target creature you control becomes a blue artifact in addition to its other colors and types, but you can only activate this as a sorcery.
Yeah, interesting one. Okay, so looting on attacking, it's not bad, or becoming tapped if you have activated abilities. The Anthem for artifacts, that's also not too bad, and yeah, that last ability to turn things into artifacts it's going to come up. You're going to want to do it sometimes, paying a mana or 2 life. Yeah, it's all around pretty good stuff. Overall, not like a huge, giant impact, but it's efficient. It does some good stuff. I think it's definitely a little bit build around E, both in the artifact space and also you want creatures that can attack evasively, so you're getting this consistently. But just like looting twice, I don't know, that's pretty nice. So I would give this probably like a B+ with some synergy concessions, but not even really, because you can just turn like you don't even need to build like around artifacts, so you can turn things into artifacts. So yeah, I think B+ is nice for this one.
Yeah, that's what I wrote down as well.
Cool, awesome. All right, and that brings us to black here. Just blazing through. We got Archfiend of the Dross. So this is a rare. It's 2 black for a 6/6 flyer. This is your classic demon with downside, but it's very large. So the downside here is it enters the battlefield with 4 oil counters on it. At the beginning of your upkeep, remove an oil counter from Archfiend of the Dross. Then if it has no oil counters on it, you'll lose the game. Whenever a creature an opponent control dies, its controller loses 2 life.
Yeah, this thing, like, reminds me of that cards from Dominaria United, Solkanar, where it's like, it seemed like it had a downside, but really it just is going to kill people.
Yes, this is going to kill your opponent very, very quickly. Like, hit them twice, kill one of their things, like, that's pretty close to dead. And not to mention proliferation to keep this around for another turn. Like, we were talking about sometimes proliferation might be a little bit low impact. Well, keeping this around for a whole turn, not losing for another turn, that's a big deal. Also, the additionally, you can sacrifice this with some cards in black, so if that really becomes a problem. So, yeah, I think this is just like downside, of course, but not. It's gonna kill your opponent so much of the time before that's relevant. So I'm just gonna give this an A.
Yeah, like if they chump block, they're also just like they're not even saving. They're still taking 2. It just kills people so quickly.
Exactly, they're still taking 2. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I'll join you on an A.
Yeah, I guess pacifism / whatever numbing dose. Those do punish this slightly. But yeah, whatever. It's gonna happen sometimes.
Yep.
What's next?
Next we have Black Sun's Twilight, which is X and a single black for an instant. Up to 1 target creature gets -X until end of turn. If X is 5 or more, return a creature card with mana value X or less from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped.
Man, these Twilights, so good. It's just like pretty good efficient removal spell. It's -X, so it works in as a if you can't straight up kill it, you can maybe ambush something in combat or make it kill it in combat with when teaming up with another creature here. And yeah, it's unlike the blue and the white one. This is only 6 mana to get to X = 5 because it's only a single black pip in the mana cost. So yeah, and that's killing something and bring something back. Very powerful. I think it's just another A.
I am going to give this one an A-.
All right, yeah, that's fair.
Like it's just a 2-for-1. It's not killing something at rate. Like you're going to kill something smaller than on curve.
Yep.
And you're not always going to bring back something of equal to X either. So
yep, that's fair.
Next, we have Drivnod Carnage Dominus. 3 black black for an 8/3 legendary creature. If a creature dying causes a trigger ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. And you can pay black black and exile 3 creature cards from your graveyard to put an indestructible counter on Drivnod.
Yeah, so it's kind of the reverse Elishnorn here. Cares about death triggers instead of entering the battlefield. So the things that care about the things that this will key off of, there's not a ton of them. Like, there are a few death triggers in black. There are a few things that say, when a thing goes to the battlefield, put oil counters on this. So it's gonna have a few things here and there, but it's not going to always be a beneficial thing. Like, a lot of times you're gonna play this. I mean, it's not gonna be a downside, but a lot of times you're gonna play this, and it's just gonna be like, all right, here's my 8/3, 8/3 that does threaten to give itself indestructible. That's still not bad, but this is definitely worse than the other ones we've seen.
Yeah, I like that you don't need to spend any colorless mana to give this indestructible.
Yeah, it's just
so there's going to be a lot of times when it comes down and like instantly they can't deal with this.
Yes.
And it does play really nicely with that 4/1 that dies the organ hoarder on leaves play.
Mm-hmm.
Both because it gives you an additional trigger, but also that thing should feed this, filling 3 creatures into your graveyard.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's that hard to engineer a spot where on turn 5 or 6 you can threaten to activate this right away with casting it, and then on turn 7, of course, you can just do that with additional black mana. And an 8/3 indestructible is pretty hard to get through.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I was saying it's worse than the other ones, but I don't want to talk it down too much because it's still pretty good. I don't know. What do you want to give this? A B minus?
Oh, I'm higher on it than that. I think.
Yeah. So maybe I guess maybe I'm undervaluing the immediate indestructible if you meet that 3 creatures in graveyard requirement.
Yeah, I'm gonna go B plus, and
Okay.
I was almost thinking of giving it an A minus.
Oh wow, yeah.
I don't think I'll quite go up there.
Yeah, I'm gonna stick around B minus, I think. But yeah, I could also be under indexing how many things that are actually gonna trigger when off of this thing. So yeah.
The other thing, like the white one becoming a 4/4 indestructible, it just gets blocked by things with 5 toughness.
Mm-hmm.
But like being this could be an 8/1. Well, I guess it would die to the -1/-1.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
An 8/2, yeah.
The power on this is really important because they just can't block it.
8's huge. Yeah, it's really big.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. All right. Next up, we've got Geth, Thane of Contracts. 1 black black for a 3/4 at rare. Has an ability. Other creatures you control get -1/-1. Has another ability. 1 black black tap. Return target card from your graveyard to the battlefield. It gains. If this creature would leave the battlefield, exile it instead of putting it anywhere else, and activate only as a sorcery. So we've got a undercosted body, 3 mana, 3/4 that makes all your other things smaller and can reanimate things at will.
Yeah, this one we can probably talk about a bit, but I think I'm giving this thing an F.
Yeah, it's funny. I think a lot of people are going to be surprised that this card is. We're probably going to give it a lower grade than a lot of people might think. So this -1/-1 to your team is a lot more impactful than you might think. Like, if you ever played it against this kind of effect where your opponent's things get -1/-1, I'm thinking like Curse of Death's Hold. And I think there's like another card in Magic's past that did a similar thing. That's a really big impact to just the way, like, 1, your X1s, you just can't play them. 2, downgrading all your creatures, like, that really affects how combat works. And so to get enough value out of this card, you really need to be reanimating things that are like really good or have enter the battlefield effects, and I don't think you can consistently set that up.
Okay.
Yeah, so you're gonna just give this an F?
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to quite give it an F because there is some power here, but I do want to give it a low grade, so I'm gonna give it like a D plus potentially.
D plus.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. What's up next?
Next, we have Paramonix, the Rat King. 1 black for a 3/3 legendary creature, which is Rat, which I guess is relevant. It has Toxic 1. Other rats you control have Toxic 1. And when it enters the battlefield, look at the top 5. You can reveal any number of rat cards and put them into your hand. The rest go in the bottom in a random order. I didn't do my homework for these rares. Are there even any other rats?
There's a common rat and an
tutu?
uncommon rat. Yeah, there's the,
Yeah,
the
the
common
tutu.
tutu and the uncommon 1/4 that you can sack a creature or artifact to draw a card if your opponent.
Oh, with the creepy art. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So really, you're just looking at this as like a 3-mana 3/3 toxic one that. So, I mean, sometimes it will draw you a card. Like, say you just have 2 of those rats in your deck. You know, you've got like I don't know the exact math, but like it's like a little bit under 20% or something. That's fine. How much do we like 3/3 toxic one? It's okay.
Yeah, it's playable.
Yeah, playable.
It's, what, like a C minus?
Yeah, I would say that. And then if you have a few rats, maybe this bumps up to like C plus. So I'm gonna give this a C. Yeah, C. Okay. And goes a little bit up if you happen to already have some of those rats as your 2-drop. Here's a funny one. Phyrexian Arena, classic. 2 black. Sorry, 1 black. 3 mana for an enchantment at rare. At the beginning of your upkeep, you draw a card and you lose a life.
Yeah, I almost feel like this type of card is better in constructed than in limited.
I think so. I think this is one that time has probably passed Phyrexian Arena by a little bit. And actually, I was listening to a podcast yesterday, a more constructive focused podcast. They were saying like even when Phyrexian Arena first came out and it was like Magic was different, it was their opinion was it was worse than people thought. Like basically they undervalued how much the 1 life actually mattered, and 1 life does matter. Like this is gonna kill. Like a lot of times in cube situations when my opponent plays a Phyrexian Arena, I'm like great. Like that's just like you're saying this to the same thing with the Skrell's Hive, where it's like when your opponent plays it, you're like great, I'm gonna kill them quicker. Yes, they're gonna draw some cards, but that's okay. You feel that a lot of times in cube, and in limited, like it's the same thing. Like it's mostly you're gonna be on board. The life total, playing this for 3 mana, doing nothing, and then taking a damage, that matters. So I actually don't think this card's very good.
I was going to go all the way down to D minus.
Yeah, I was going to go D. I think this kind of effect gets a little bit better if you, one, have like a little bit of life gain or have a lot of cheap interaction spells, because if you can leverage like a bunch of cheap interaction spells when you're drawing a bunch of cards, like those kind of go hand in hand, so you're not dying. But yeah, again, tempering people's expectations, the card's not that good.
There's just not that much life to gain in this deck, though.
That too. And even against against a poison-ish deck or a toxic deck, like we discussed yesterday, your life total is still going to matter a lot of the time. So, yeah, I'm going to give it a D. Next up, we got another reprint here. What's up next?
Yeah, next we have Phyrexian Obliterator. Black for a 5/5 trample. Whenever a source deals damage to Phyrexian Obliterator, that source's controller sacrifices that many permanents.
So we're basically just going to say everything the same that we did about the white one. Make sure you've got 12 sources at a bare minimum of black. This was actually probably a little bit worse than the white one, honestly. Just like, it's kind of splitting hairs here. But I think like the flying is better. The damage redirection is a little bit better. Basically, this card and the other card, the white one, they kind of just say your opponent can't attack into this and this is unblockable, right? That's a lot of the time, unless you pair it with like a fight spell. That's kind of a cute thing you can do. But yeah, I think we're just going to get the same thing, like a B plus-ish, A minus maybe if you can cast it, but just obviously you have to be really considerate about casting it.
I'm going to go all the way down to B, just because I think it's a lot harder to fill your deck up with black cards.
I agree with that, certainly. I think the black cards are worse on average than the white cards.
Yeah. Are you at B plus?
Yeah, I'll join you. I'll join you at B there.
Join me, okay.
All right, next up, we've got a kind of a simple legendary, but an effective one. Vran Executioner Thanes. This is 1 and a black for a 2/2 at rare. Whenever 1 or more other creatures you control dies, each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. The ability only triggers once each turn.
Yeah, this card's nice. It'd be nicer if there was better ways to sacrifice things.
Yeah.
Or it'd also be nicer if it triggered off of artifacts, because that's kind of like the red-black seems to want artifacts or creatures to leave the battlefield.
Mm-hmm.
But this thing's still, I think it's good, but not great.
It's works with tokens, worth noting. It doesn't say non-tokens, so your mites, they do something. I think this card it reads a little bit boring, but I think it's better than it looks. Like, I think that just making it so that if you're aggressive, your opponent can't really do too much. I mean, they have to, you can send things in one at a time, and they drain them no matter if they trade or not. And on blocks, it's pretty good too. Again, it's like the once per turn thing is holding it back a little bit, but I still think it's pretty effective for like a low cost card. I don't know. I was gonna give this a B, but maybe sounds like you might be a little bit lower on it.
Yeah, I was just gonna give it a C plus. Like it. I think a lot of. I mean, it doesn't do anything. Oh, it triggers on itself too, doesn't it?
No, it doesn't actually. Other creatures.
Oh, it is other. Yeah, I thought I read it right the first time. Yeah, so if this thing just dies, it's like, worse than like a vampire spawn. If it triggers once, I guess you're like a bit happy, but like the body doesn't really get in. I'll go up to a B minus.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. And then our last black card here, we've got Vraska, Betrayal Sting. So there's another Mythic completed Planeswalker, 4 black, and then black Phyrexian mana, 6 loyalty, 0 draw a card, you lose a life, proliferate. So that's kind of like a +1 because of course you can proliferate your loyalty counters. -2, target creature becomes a treasure artifact with tap, sack this artifact. Well, it just becomes a treasure. I don't need to read that out. And it loses all other card types and abilities. -9, if target player has fewer than 9 poison counters, they get a number of poison counters equal to the difference. So that ultimately will get them the 9 poison counters no matter what. Doesn't kill them unless you proliferate. That -2 removal ability gets around indestructible. It gets around death triggers, but gives them an artifact, or so give them a treasure, which is a downside. But overall, this is like kind of your classic Planeswalker template. Uptick, draw a card, negative, kill something, negative, big ultimate, close to win the game.
Yeah, and we've seen an enchantment that turns stuff into treasure in Essency that was pretty bad.
Yep.
But being able to do it multiple times in a row, because usually the downside with that is, you give your opponent a treasure, and then that lets them use the treasure to cast something ahead of curve. And this thing, you just like, okay, I'll -2. Oh, you played a big thing with your treasure. I'll just -2 again, and I still have, like, I can do that again even if I want to.
Right. Yeah.
So I think the downside of giving them a treasure is really mitigated by just that only being a -2 on a 6 loyalty Planeswalker. And you can also play this. You can still do it twice on 5 mana. So I think this thing's like quite strong.
Yeah, it just seems like an A to me. Like, it just seems good.
Yeah.
Sweet. All right, and that brings us to the red cards. What do we have for our first red card here?
We have All Will Be One, which is 3 red for an enchantment. Whenever you put 1 or more counters on a permanent or a player, All Will Be One deals that much damage to target opponent, creature an opponent controls, or planeswalker an opponent controls.
So it's like I was going to say an oil build around, which I think is going to be mostly where you get your counters from. But, it does work with toxic creatures as well. This is a weird one because it's powerful. It just is 5 mana, and then you have to, like, play your stuff afterwards, or all your other stuff. I mean, you're not going to hold stuff, but your stuff after you cast this starts dealing 3 damage sometimes. Although, not a lot of things enter. I was thinking some things enter with, like, 3 oil counters, but that's actually pretty rare. Most of them need to accrue them, so it's going to be more like ping damage. Yeah, this is one that my gut says it's a little bit too finicky, a little bit too slow, but it does have a lot of potential.
I want to give this an F. That might be too harsh.
Yeah.
Like, for you, like, if you get 5 damage out of this, you're gonna feel like I really did it. But then you've just done like a 3 red worse than just 5 damage sorcery,
right,
effectively. So yeah, I'm gonna believe in myself, and I'm gonna give an F for this.
Yeah, I think I was gonna give it a build around C+, but like that's when 60-70% of your deck can put counters on things, and I don't know how reliable that's gonna be, or how often that comes together. Like I don't imagine you're gonna take this, pick one, and build around it. I don't imagine. Like, I can imagine in spots, like, in Pack 2 or Pack 3, you're like, hey, I already have, like, quite a bit of oil, and maybe I could push that a little bit more. So that you do get to the, like, 60-70% of your cards trigger this. But, yeah, I think...
Okay, no. Okay, I thought of a better argument. I'm gonna convince you of the F, and Chad as well.
Go ahead.
Okay? So, if this is a top deck, it's awful.
Yes.
Right? If this is in your opening hand, you basically have to play it on turn 5.
Yes.
Which means turn 5, you're falling like behind. Your opponent's going to be curving out. You're not adding anything to the board, And then turn 6, even if you add, I think the most oil you can get at a time is 3 or 4 damage, you're not making up for the tempo loss of skipping turn 5.
Right. Okay. Yeah. No, I think you're right. Like, it's, as I was talking about it, I was like trying to come up with arguments to convince myself, but no, I'll join you at F. I think it's just gonna be too bad.
Okay.
All right. Next up, we've got Capricious Hellraiser. So this is 3 red for a 4/4 mythic. It has flying, and it says this spell costs 3 less to cast if you have 9 or more cards in your graveyard. So that's a lot. 6 mana straight up, or red if you've got that discount. It says, when it enters the battlefield, exile 3 cards at random from your graveyard. Choose a non-creature, non-land card from among them, and copy it. Sorry, that's the one thing. A non-creature, non-land card from among those cards and copy them. You may cast the copy without paying its mana cost.
Yeah, so the first time I read this, like always with these cost reduction things, you kind of, my brain internalized that it was overcosted if you're not getting the discount. And I was thinking like, oh, it's pretty hard to get that discount. Like 9 cards in your graveyard is not going to happen until like the very late game. So it's probably not that good. And then like you realize it's only 6 mana.
Right.
Like 6 mana for a 4/4 flyer is not awful. It's not great. But if you have some amount of control there and you're getting, it's even better if you don't have 9 cards in your graveyard because you have more control over being able to potentially hit a spell in there.
Yep.
So I still don't think it's great. Like 3 cards at random. If you have 3 creatures or lands in your graveyard, it can just whiff.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's bad either.
Yeah, it's like a fun little mini game. I think you definitely, like I was thinking, okay, well, you want to have a lot of non-creatures in your deck, and I think it's true to an extent, but just like, as long as you're casting this for 6 and you don't have too many cards in your graveyard, and you just like cast a removal spell before that point, like it's pretty likely that's going to be like one of the 3 cards you hit. Either you only have like 2 other cards plus that one, or maybe you have 4. You have a 75% chance of hitting it. So yeah, I think it doesn't take too much to build around this card as long as you're just thinking of this as just like the 6 mana mode. You're just thinking this is 6 mana 4/4 that casts a spell when it comes in.
I'm still not going to give it a very high grade. Like I didn't give a high grade to the other 4/4 flyers for 6 that we saw at Uncommon in white and blue. I'm thinking like C+.
Yeah, I was going to give it a C+ as well. I think that, yeah, it's a little finicky. Triple red, even on turn 6, is sometimes you're not always going to cast that. So yeah, good card, but you know, I do think it's got some kind of finicky parts to it. What's up next?
Next, we have Dragonwing Glider, 3 red for an artifact. It has Formiridon, and equipped creature has +2/+2 flying and haste, and equips for 3 red.
That's great. It's a big hasty dragon, 5 mana 4/4 hasty dragon that turns your other things into big giant dragons. So that's just an A, I think.
Yeah, I'm a lot more happy paying 5 mana for a 4/4 flyer with haste than 6 mana for a 4/4 flyer with no haste.
Yep, agree with that.
Yeah, the thing is great.
Yep.
I'm with you on an A.
Great card. Next up, we've got Koth, another Planeswalker at rare here. Koth, Fire of Resistance. So this is 2 red for a 4 loyalty Planeswalker. +2, search your library for a basic mounted card, reveal it, put it into your hand, and shuffle. -3, Koth deals damage to target creature equal to the number of mountains you control. -7, you get an emblem with whenever a mountain enters the battlefield under your control, this emblem deals 4 damage to any target.
Yeah, so not broken.
No.
But +2 to add a card in your hand, like +2 draw card, even if it's not a spell, and starting with 4 loyalty, like this is going up to 6 right away. It's going to be pretty hard to have your opponent kill this right away, and then you can just keep plussing it as you develop your board. I think it's still pretty good.
Yeah, me too. It's not, yeah, that plus, I think you don't want to overlook it. Like sometimes you're like, oh, like, what do you need lands for in your red deck past turn 4? But like that matters a lot of the time. Just like consistently hitting land drops. Maybe you're just using the card as a resource to discard to something. And then that -3, yeah, you might want to weight your deck a little bit towards red if you can, just so you can like consistently deal 3 with that when it comes in or something. And then that 7 ultimate, that's actually pretty relevant, right? It comes after you uptick. I can ultimate, keep the Koth around, keep upticking, get mountains out of my deck. I mean, I'm talking about a stable board where your opponent can't attack this, but 3 turns and you're getting that ultimate, and then keep plussing to deal 4 each land drop. So yeah,
Well,
I think
not okay. So let me remind you about
proliferate, right?
yeah.
yeah,
You
yeah.
can just plus to it, and then the next turn, if you proliferate, you can immediately
Totally.
-7.
Yeah. Don't want to gloss over that, and that's good. I mean, you lose the cost at that point, right? So
Yes, you do.
yeah, so you have to worry about that. But if you can proliferate twice, then you don't lose the cost. So yeah, I think this is a good card. It doesn't stand out as like it's not as over the top as some of the other planeswalkers, but I would give this a B plus.
Yeah, and again, like you say losing the cost like that's such a bad thing, but you
Right.
probably haven't played your mountain.
Yeah.
So you've turned it into a 4 mana, draw a mountain, deal 4 damage, and then any other mountain you play is another 4 damage. Like I think you'll be quite happy with that.
Yep. I agree in that. Next up, we've got Red Sun's Twilight, X red for a sorcery rare. Destroy up to X target artifacts. If X is 5 or more, for each artifact destroyed this way, create a token that's a copy of it. Those tokens gain haste, exile them at the beginning of the next end step. So this is like much worse. Probably just a sideboard grade.
You think it's that bad? Is there that few artifacts? I guess there probably is.
I think there's just not enough to consistently main deck this.
Sure.
No. Yeah.
All
right, next one. What's up?
Next we have Slowbad Iron Goblin, 2 and a red for 3/3 legendary creature. Tap, sacrifice an artifact, add an amount of red equal to the sacrificed artifact's mana value. Spend this mana only to cast artifact spells or activate abilities of artifacts. Is this a reprint?
No. Slowbad was a character before, but no, I don't think this is a card we've seen before. So this is like a constructed card. I mean, it's a 3-mana 3/3, sure, and you're gonna have that ability some amount of the time be relevant. But it's mostly like 3-mana 3/3.
Yeah, it's like a D+?
Yeah, like a D+, I think. Next up, we've got the red god here, Sulfim Mayhem Dominus. This is 2 red for a 5/4. It's a mythic. If a source you control would deal non-combat damage to opponent or permanent an opponent controls, it deals double that damage to that player or permanent instead. And then the indestructible ability is 1 Phyrexian mana. Discard 2 cards, put an indestructible counter on Sulfim.
So this is a one-shot kill with that Silex.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, 10 double it. I love that. But it's big. 4 mana 5/4. Yeah, it's kind of nice.
Yeah, I don't think this is as good as the blue one.
Yep.
Either, like not even close. But discarding 2 cards, like that's something. Again, threat of activation. You can hold a land or 2. And it's a 5/4 for 4. I'm gonna go. I don't think I'm gonna go that high. I'm gonna go like B, I think.
Yeah, I'll give it that too. It's kind of nice with the Sawblade Scamp, the 1-drop that taps to deal damage. Those deal 2.
Right.
With this in play, it's kind of cool. But yeah, I agree with you on B. I'm just 2 more for red here. What's up next?
Next, we have Urabrask's Forge, 2 and a red for an artifact. At the beginning of combat on your turn, put an oil counter on Urabrask's Forge, then create an X1 red Phyrexian Horror creature token with trample and haste, where X is the number of oil counters on the Forge, and you sacrifice it at the end step.
Yeah, kind of a funny one. It's this just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and of course proliferate comes into play here too. I think this is good enough. Like it's a little slow, but it just like it's so much damage as the game goes on.
Yeah, there's that card a long time ago that I can't remember the name of. It was like 3 white red, and it made like 1/1/1 token, then 2 of them, and then 3 of them.
Assemble the Legion.
Assemble something. I was gonna say. Okay.
Yeah.
And this kind of has like a little bit of that vibe. I do think this thing, it's not great. I want to say, like, I think I'm going to go D+.
Oh, D+. I was going to give it a C+. Okay. I think that, proliferating once on this, with jump starting it, just like getting 1 turn ahead is a big deal. Like, you play this, it's a 1, you proliferate the turn after, it's a 3, and then a 4. Like, it's just this source of damage that your opponent's really going to have to, like, eventually throw something under the bus. And, yeah, I guess, like, never blocks, obviously, but I think that's okay for the aggressive output you're getting here.
Yeah, a lot. I've underrated. This is almost like there's almost like a cycle of these where I've rated them lower than you, where these cards when you are picturing it in your head, you're picturing casting it on turn 3.
Right, exactly. You're not always
Like
gonna
I
do that.
just, I think you're not going to want to, especially with toxic and like the pressure of getting corrupted.
Mm-hmm.
You're just not going to want to cast this on turn 3 in a lot of games.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. I still think I'll come down a little bit to like a C, but I still do think like for the times you do cast early, I think it's a lot of damage. So I definitely, yeah, I think you're right that I'm overrating that a little bit. But I don't know. I still like it.
Okay.
Yeah. They're going D minus?
D plus.
D plus, sorry, D plus, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, our last red card here, Vindictive Flamestoker. Single red mana for a 1/2 at rare. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you put an oil counter on the Flamestoker, and it's got a 7 mana activated ability, 6 in a red. Sacrifice Flamestoker, discard your hand, then draw 4 cards, but the ability costs 1 less to activate for each oil counter on Vindictive Flamestoker.
I love this thing.
But Mark, if you top deck it, it takes so long for the oil counter. No, I agree. I like it too.
It's good early and late, right?
Yeah,
like
no,
if late
good.
you have the mana sources and an empty hand, early you have a 1/2 that like reduces its cost for later.
Yeah,
I think this thing's really good, and it's like it's well statted for a 1-drop.
It blocks the might tokens, which is kind of nice. Yeah, that's good. What do you want to give it?
I want to give this a B.
Okay, yeah, I'm there with you. Cool. And that brings us to green. The home stretch. Bloated Contaminator is our first rare here. 2 and a green for a 4/4 trample. Toxic 1. When Bloated Contaminator deals combat damage to a player, you proliferate.
Good grief. Like this is just
it's huge.
Beef. This is such beef.
It's
like,
massive.
It always hits for 2 poison.
Yep.
I like this thing a lot.
You want to give it like an A minus?
For just stats, I think I'm only gonna go B plus.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I'll put me down as A minus.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just massive. Yeah, really good card. All right, what's up next?
Next we have Conduit of Worlds. 2 green for an artifact. You may play lands from your graveyard, and it has tap. Choose target non-land permanent card in your graveyard. If you haven't cast a spell this turn, you may cast that card. If you do, you can't cast additional spells this turn. Activate only as a sorcery.
So we're upgrading Crucible of Worlds here to be able to cast non-lands as well. It's slow. It's a lot of card advantage. And it doesn't
would be nice if this wasn't a sorcery. Like if you could do instance with this, it'd be pretty. Like it'd be way better for constructed. But like for limited, it'd be cool if this wasn't a sorcery.
Oh, sorry. It's also. Oh no, but it's non-land permanent though, right? So it's not even like.
Oh, that's right. So does it? Well, you could do like flash.
Yeah, sure.
But you're right. It's not relevant. Yeah.
So and it doesn't. It also doesn't have the thing where like sometimes cards like this will say like if that thing would die, you exile it instead. Like you can keep.
Yeah.
You chump blocking.
You can get a spell bomb every turn.
That's pretty good. It means you can only cast. Yeah, like. This is a tough one.
It's so slow.
It is very slow.
I'm it up jokingly because I think it's too slow.
Yeah, trust me, I'm not a fan of these like slow card vanity cards, but it's a lot of cards. It's enticing. So,
but like you can't even get through those cards because you can only cast one spell.
Right. So you're limiting the amount of actual impact those have. Yeah. All right. What do you want to give this?
I'm gonna say like a D.
Yeah, D plus. I think it's gonna land too far on the side of when your opponent casts this, you're gonna be happy about it. I think that's the vibe I'm getting from it. So yeah, I agree. Next up, we've got Evolved Spinoderm. 2 green for a 5/5 rare. Enters the battlefield with 4 oil counters. It has trample as long as it has 2 or fewer oil counters. Otherwise, it has hexproof. At the beginning of your upkeep, you remove an oil counter from the Spinoderm. Then if it has no oil counters, you sacrifice it. Kind of similar to the demon, the demon that kills you if it runs out of counters. So again, a little bit hard to parse, but it's got 4 oil counters. It's got trample when it first comes. Oh, sorry, hexproof when it first comes in. So your opponent can't like snap it off when you cast your big old 4-mana 5/5. And then as the turns go on, it'll have trample instead of hexproof.
Yeah. So you, assuming no proliferate, you get 1 attack with a hexproofer and 2 attacks with a trampler.
Yep.
Which is good, but not like insane. But with Proliferate, it becomes a lot better, specifically if you're like kind of towing the line between 2 and 3 counters. If you can proliferate at instant speed to give this thing hexproof, it's like really
Oh, yeah,
cool.
that is kind of nice, yeah.
Yeah. So I think this thing's good, but not like insane or anything. I'm maybe like I might be on
B?
B or B plus. Yeah,
Yeah,
I think I'm gonna go
I'm just gonna give it a B. Yeah. All right,
Yeah.
I'll join you there. And yeah, what's next?
Next we have Green Sun's Twilight. X and a green for a sorcery. Reveal the top X+1 cards of your library. Choose a creature card and or a land card from among them. Put those cards into your hand and the rest on the bottom in a random order. If X is 5 or more, instead put the chosen cards onto the battlefield or your hand and still the rest on the bottom in a random order.
Yeah, so it's sort of a 3 mana. You get to look at 3 cards, and you know it's not unlikely that again, yes, unlikely is not the right word to use. You're not going to be that happy to cast it for 3 because it's not consistently if you're not consistently getting a creature and a land. I think that's not good. If this was just like 3 mana, draw a creature, like draw the top land, draw the top creature, I think it'd be pretty solid. You know, not amazing, but solid. Because
yeah, like I guess the white, blue, and black suns have got to be a lot bigger than the red and green suns. I guess.
Yeah, definitely.
They're just way better. Like,
yeah,
so
like
it's weird.
You're just not happy with this at most points of the curve, and then even when you get to 5, it's like, all right, like maybe you reveal a 4-drop and land, you know. So yeah, I think this is just like too bad at all points. I think it's just a D, or maybe even F.
I'm with you on a D.
Yeah. It reminds me of the Neon Dynasty cycle of the
it's
X-Spells.
not anywhere near that bad.
No, but the green one is the odd one out. Man, the green one of that cycle, the March of Life Spurgeoning, it's like one of the worst cards I've ever seen of all time. Like it's like truly horrendous. Anyways, let's move on. We're not talking about that set. We're almost done here. We've got 5 more. Next we got a Planeswalker, Nissa Ascendant Animist. 7 loyalty Planeswalker. It's 3 green, Phyrexian. And this is actually kind of a unique one because this has 2 Phyrexian mana symbols, so it's triple modal, right? You can either pay it for 5 mana, for 6 mana, or for 7 mana, and it'll come with 3, 5, or 7 loyalty counters. +1, create a XX green Phyrexian Horror creature token where X is Nissa's loyalty. -1, destroy target artifact or enchantment. -7, until end of turn, creatures you control get +1/+1 for each forest you control and gain trample.
Yeah, it's like this card is obviously fantastic, but the minus abilities aren't like as broken as I expected. I don't know if you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, I do.
Like they're still very good, and I think this card's still just like an A. But it feels like they could, like, just looking at the mana cost, you're just like, this card's going to be the best card in the set, and then you read it and it's like, it's just really good.
Yeah, it's just merely very, very good. So yeah, I mean, like, you know, if you think about this, and plus, you know, I said it comes in 3 loyalty, but that +1, it's going to make a 4/4, even if you cast for just 5 mana.
Yeah.
And then it makes a 6/6 if it's for 6 mana, and you know, so on. So yeah, I mean, the card's good. The ultimate's going to win a lot of games on 7 mana. Like, it's going to end a lot. Like, it's going to end the game on the spot a lot of time. You have 3 forests in play, 3 creatures. You're just like, all right, you know, pump them, attack you for 15 or whatever. But yeah, I think it's just an A. A plus,
that's
maybe?
what I have. I don't think it's an A plus.
Yeah, I would say
like
so.
It's not like that great. The token doesn't have reach or whatever. You know, it doesn't stop you in the air. It's if they pressure this, you're making smaller creatures. So
yes, yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, notably too, this isn't like Ren and 7 where the tokens keep growing. It's just static XX. Like it'll make a 4/4, you know, untouched. This makes a 4/4, then a 5/5, then a 6/6, and those tokens don't change.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. A sounds good. Next one.
Next we have Thrun, Breaker of Silence. So Thrun was the last troll, and he's still kicking around. 3 green for a 5/5 legendary creature. Spell can't be countered. Trample. It can't be the target of non-green spells your opponents control or abilities from non-green sources your opponents control. And as long as it's your turn, it has indestructible.
It's ridiculous.
It's just like, why? Like, why?
This is the perfect example of like when people talk about cards that aren't good enough for constructed but busted and limited. Like this is it. This is the card.
I just don't get it. Why?
So you can kill it with fight spells if you have something that kills a 5/5, but that's like pretty much it. Yeah, this thing's really good. This is another A.
I have it as A minus.
A minus, yeah. Just
like,
it's not like it's a vanilla body.
It's actually like pretty unimpressive on defense, right?
Sure,
Like
yeah.
it doesn't have indestructible on defense. It's just a 5/5 trample. It doesn't have like reach or lifelink or anything that's stopping you. And also, like, if my opponent casts this on turn 5, I am immediately just like untapping and attacking.
Yeah, just like not even questioning it. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, you got to bluff the trick,
Yep.
make them think, because if you're the one casting this, you basically just like can't block with it. You can't risk it dying to a trick.
Yep.
So I am going to bluff the heck out of my opponents with this card.
Cool. Yep. Sounds great. I will also say it A. I think it's got enough words on the card that I like A, but A minus. Okay. Yeah, I get what you're getting at. Tyrannix Rex. This is a Mythic 4 green, 7 mana for an 8/8. Can't be countered. Trample, Ward 4, Haste, Toxic 4. This keyword soup here.
Yeah, you look at it and you think like, oh, it deals damage and poison ratio-wise equally. But that's actually not necessarily true, because if your opponent has, if your opponent's at, let's say, 10 life, you can hit them for 8, and then they can block like 7 trample worth. If your opponent's at 2 poison, then they're still dead to 2 hits of this. Even if they block like 7 of the trample, you just need to get 1 point through to kill them, right?
Yep. And I imagine at that point,
explain that very well, but I think you know what I mean.
No, totally. Like, yeah, it's like, your opponent, if they get 1 point through, they're gonna get Toxic Forward. And yeah. I imagine like this probably ends the game a lot of the time by itself. Like, your opponent, it's like not hard to imagine your opponent's just like, on turn 7 kind of sitting there at 6 poison, and it's just like, all right, well, I can't block all of this power and maybe your other toxic thing, so I just lose the game here, or lose the board, and I'm at 9 poison. So yeah, I mean, it's 7 mana, but it's so good. I think it's an A.
An A. I have it at a B plus. 7 is a lot.
Yeah, 7's a lot, but it's like really hard to kill and hasty and just kills them really quick. I don't know.
Like Ward 4, there's a lot of efficient, cheap removal in the set.
It's true. It's true.
So if you assume like with you 7 mana, maybe you assume your opponent has like 6 mana. They need to have a 2 mana spell to deal with this, which sounds like it's really hard. But there's like the 2 mana common and uncommon white things get rid of this, and the 2 mana black spell, deals with this. Like once you're corrupted, so I don't think it's like that impossible to deal with.
All right, yeah. So A minus then is that what you went with?
I'm going B plus.
B plus.
Just because it costs 7.
I'll come down a bit. I'll say A minus.
Okay.
And next one we've got is a Venerated Rot Priest. This is a big one for Constructed, or getting some Constructed hype. 1 mana for a 1/2, single green mana. Toxic 1. Whenever a creature you control becomes the target of a spell, target opponent gets a poison counter.
Yeah, you talk about Constructed, but this card's just insane,
good.
right?
Yeah, it's just very good as well. Yeah, you can't Ground Rift and kill your opponent on turn 3 or whatever with this, but yeah, it's solid. It's, the body's not bad. Again, blocks mites. Toxic 1 means you're gonna get that hidden or you're gonna get that early hitting because you got a 1-drop, and this works on both your spells and your opponent's spells, right? Your pump spells and their removal spells. So yeah, card's good.
Yeah, if you like, even like a fight spell is gonna trigger this.
Yeah.
And,
cool.
Like this is a card where if I open it, like I'm thinking I'm drafting green black with this card.
Yeah, it's powerful. So what do you want to give it?
I am gonna go as high as, I think I'm just gonna say B plus.
I was gonna say B, but yeah, I think around that level. Sweet. And Mark, take us home with our last card here in the set review.
Okay, we have Zopandrel Hunger Dominus, 5 green for a 4/6 legendary creature with reach. At the beginning of each combat, double the power and toughness of each creature you control until end of turn. And you can pay green and sacrifice 2 other creatures to put an indestructible counter on it.
Yeah, so it comes down, and effectively this is a 8/12. So it is actually the same text as that card, enchantment in Midnight Hunt, right? The Unnatural Growth, the 1 green. And that card was good if you could cast it. This is 7 mana, so certainly it's a bit more.
That was 1 in quad green, wasn't it?
Quad green, yes, sorry, 1 green. So easier to cast in some respects, harder to cast in others. Do you like this more or less than some of the other, like the Nissa and like, no, obviously you're never gonna have to like make this choice, but like as far as like immediate impact for your 7-drop?
More or less than the Nissa.
So
I
like
like
the
less
Nissa
than the
and
Nissa.
the dinosaur, like, you know, just like all these, you know, we've been saying like, oh, 7 mana, 7 mana. But where does this land for you on impact at 7 mana?
Yeah, I think this is like pretty similar to the dinosaur. Like it ends the game probably not the turn you cast it, but the turn after, which is the same thing with the other dinosaur. And has the ability to get indestructible, which is kind of similar to the Ward 4. So I'm probably priced into giving it like a similar rating. So I think I'll say B+ for it.
Yeah, I was gonna say that as well. All right, and that does it. I didn't shout this out at the beginning of the podcast, either today or yesterday. But if you enjoy what's happening here, check out the Limited Level Ups Patreon. I'll just plug that very quickly. If you're watching live, there's the link going up there. Number one, helps support the show, and number two, it's a bunch of reward tiers over there that we want to give back to you, help you get better at Limited Magic in a lot of ways, especially at the beginning of a new set. Always a lot of stuff going on in the Limited Level Ups Discord and going on with me. At the beginning of sets, I'm usually like coaching twice a day. One of the tiers there is the $10 tier. It's the highest tier for the coaching tier. So check that out if you want a leg up on the set. And Mark, I gotta say once again, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for filling in for Ethan. This was a blast. I've already got a bunch of great feedback from folks from yesterday saying, oh, Mark was great. So hope everybody out there listening enjoyed. I'll say once again, any last thoughts as we ride into the sunset here?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to drafting the set. You know, I think Wizards has done a fantastic job with the limited sets recently. And this one has the bearings of being another potential all-timer. So time will tell, but I guess we have to wait another... Us normal folk have to wait another week to be able to try that out.
Yeah.
And so we'll have to see when it comes out.
Yeah, I will be doing the Streamer Early Access event, which is in 2 days from now from this recording. So Thursday, if you want to catch me live on Twitch, I'm at cord_o_calls there. And of course, you know, there's pre-release weekend. And next week, around this time, on Tuesday or Wednesday, I'll be putting out my set overview-ish episode where I've got my hands on the cards and talking about everything. So a bit more context, a bit more, you know, confidence behind some thoughts on cards. But yeah, hopefully this carries you over to your pre-release, your early events, and yeah, good luck everybody. Happy drafting.